Oh.
Pledge allegiance, so.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, everyone is here. Here. Public comment. No, none. Okay, how about online, anybody else?
Village resident.
Village resident online, do you have any public comment? Take that to mean no. Okay. Going. Approval of the agenda. I'd like to add PLA on to, put it under new business.
No, we should probably do committee reports because they'd like it to be a semi-regular offering.
Oh, okay, that's fine. We'll just put it under reports under zoning administrator, all right?
Would you mind doing it first, just because the person reporting needs to be to another meeting?
Oh, sure.
That'd be great.
We'll put it in front of, I don't care, in front of treasurer's report. Anybody else? Amend the agenda? No, none, okay. Minutes approval, anybody, approval of the minutes of regular township board meeting, which January 21st, 2026.
We move for approval.
As presented? Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? None being heard, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried. How about the approval of the minutes for the special board meeting minutes of January 26th?
Members, please look, you have an updated draft of those minutes.
Right,
And the difference is,
okay,
on your original draft, I neglected to spell out members present, members absent. So that's the only change.
okay.
I would make a motion to approve the special meeting minutes for January 26, 2026.
Second.
Second, any discussion? None being heard, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried. Approval of the minutes, special township board meeting minutes of February 6th, 2026.
I would move for approval of those minutes as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ed, okay. Any discussion? None being heard, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that's carried. Approval of the minutes of special board meeting of February 11th, 2026.
I'll make that motion to approve the minutes from the February 11th special board meeting, 2026.
Okay, second.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? None being heard, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that's carried. Okay, thank you. We'll move on to lake management report.
Well, thank you. Just a little bit of background, all of you may remember that last year, actually, I think it was right about this time, we entered into a contract with Kaiser and Associates. And that followed several years of having PLM Lake Management Company as both our lake manager and our applicator. And the invasive species committee hearing feedback from the community, but also internally just felt that last year it was time to explore segregating those duties. So we entered into an RFP process that the board approved, subsequently chose Kaiser and Associates. And before giving the report, I would like to say we, as a board or a committee, had a discussion last meeting about how blown away we've been with their service this year and how pleased we are. So tonight we have with us the principal, Mark Kaiser, and then the project manager that we work with probably more day to day, Natalie Crum.
Okay, thank you. Welcome. Who
It's
speaks
you.
first? Okay, come on up. You want us to move?
No, we've got it.
There was a request for a larger screen.
So,
I'm teasing.
oh, we could get
Jumbotron.
We get you to sponsor that, Danny, we'll put your name on
It's like making my donations at the window.
Feel the same way. Yeah, I mean, it's twice a year. Do you want to?
Sleep on us.
The other thing I'll say, well, or are you ready to go now?
I think we're ready.
Okay, I was just gonna say something if we needed to. Go ahead.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be presenting to the board today. We've really enjoyed this year working with the Invasive Species Committee. Great feedback all along. I think one of the things that was really beneficial through this process is the ability for us to interact on almost a monthly basis in a formal committee meeting, interact at that committee meeting, just with updates, new information that's become available, that's made available to us, and then an exchange of information, what we're seeing with the committee as well. So I think that's an important aspect of what we're doing, is because we could step in as the third-party consultant and everything could become a black box. And then people start to ask questions, you start to have different conversations going on back and forth. So really that frequent communication is important for us to be able to relay what we're seeing, and that information then go out to the lake community. So what Natalie and I will kind of co-present today, we'll tag team a little bit here. We've got 33 slides this morning, but we're going to try to go through those quickly. Now, some of these slides might be a little bit hard to see for the folks in the back, but certainly for you folks up here, we'll do a lot of finger pointing to the screen of what we're seeing here. I'll start out with some of the backdrop of the types of things that we've done on the lake this year. And then as we get into the data, Natalie will talk about that. Natalie spent a fair amount of time on the lake today, as well as a couple of our other staff. It's the startup year, so we were catching up on just some of the geography, but I think picking up quickly what had been done in the past or what hadn't been done in the past, what had been seen or had not been looked at in the past. And we'll try to relay that with what we talk about today. But the information here is reflected in our annual report. And I think you've all received electronic copies of that report. A lot more detailed information in that report than what you'll see here today, but we're trying to hit the highlights. Now, one of the important things that we'll say up front that we always do, because it's important to document what we've seen and what we've done. And that includes any of the sampling any of the water quality samples we've collected, the laboratory data. It's important to keep that available, because as we look back in history of the work that's been done, we see some gaps. And some of the previous reporting, we don't see the lab reports. So as we have questions about maybe how some of those data were generated or what they represent or how they were calculated, that becomes the black box. And we'll have a few illustrations of that today. And not to speak poorly about what was done in the past, but just to bring forth that idea of, if we have good information as we go, it's easier then to be able to say, here's what it was, here's how it's changed, here's what we should be looking at, and potentially here's what should be done. And I think when we have gaps there, we have to sometimes fill those in, and we may have to skip a step, or that bumps out a little bit further. So for the most part, we now have completed all of our services that we had in our original scope for the lake. There'll still be interactions. There's ongoing discussions about bidding for a new applicator potentially, and then talking about some of the changes for 2026 that we've seen from our 2025 work. So we originally started out doing kind of a background review of what had been done previously. That pointed to some potential gaps that we saw this year that we wanted to try to fill in. We had one round of storm drain sampling there. So storm drain is just around this corner of the lake. That's meant to be a wet weather event. That was done in early May. Our preseason survey was when Natalie and Dr. Doug Pullman were out on the boat with representatives from the board, from the committee, on a big pontoon boat, and really looking over the lake all together. Everybody's got the same view during those discussions of the preseason survey. The idea there is that what we see then kind of translates to what needs to be done for the summer. And if everybody's looking at the same conditions and we're having the discussions about what's going to be done, and then Natalie's great about saying, all right, we're going to map out on, on our iPads, exactly where we said we think treatment needs to happen. That information gets translated to the applicator, and then it just makes it easier that everybody's in agreement. Now, the idea of that preseason survey is that this is not just what's gonna happen in the near term, but it's the forecast of what should happen in the early summer. Now, our surveys of follow-up of actually where the treatment, watching the treatment take place, coming back about 30 days later to see if that treatment was effective, is that in between, we have these surveys. We call it the early season, the late season surveys. This is where we spend a long day on the lake, and we really do a comprehensive survey of all the vegetation we're observing. And Natalie will talk about that in a little bit. So it was a 2-day event just before the 4th of July for the early season. That was kind of just getting us, making sure our stations were where we needed them to be, and then kind of getting all of the information the first time. With that in place, we did the late season survey then in early September. And then at the same time, we had in-lake and tributary sampling with both of those events. So we're doing the vegetation survey in the lake, but we're also going to the tributaries and collecting water quality samples, flow samples, and then when we're on the lake, also collecting water quality information as well. And then we also had treatment oversight on 2 different events. This was, treatment oversight of actually watching them in the lake, and then there was separate trips to come out about 30 days later to say, all right, we'll go back to those exact areas that we saw that were treated. They were mapped during the treatment, and we'll see, was it effective? And that's really important for saying, is it working? Is it not working? What does that portend for the next year? So this kind of summarizes the scope that we had of our lake activities. And I'm going to turn this over to Natalie at this point, but there's a little dot with each number here on the lake. These dots correspond to, it's almost a grid pattern. Wherever there's vegetation found in the lake, we assign a sampling location and a number. And every time we come out of the lake, we can go back to the same spot. It's all geo-referenced. They work with iPads. I can't even turn an iPad on or turn one off, let alone what these guys can do with iPads in the boat. So as they collect data in the boat, it's literally going into the database, and it's cloud database, and that information is entered. They'll bring it back, they'll quality check it to make sure it's there. But we get information from all of these different areas, and that kind of sets us up for saying, all right, what does it look like in the lake in terms of plant conditions? So Natalie, I may have stolen a little bit of your thunder there.
If I can interject one thing real quick, and I did send it to the board. For anybody listening or seeing it, and for the audience, their entire report, which I think ended up being 63 pages, we will have posted on the invasive species webpage. So although we may not be able to see all of this clearly tonight, it will be on the webpage, hopefully in the next 24 hours if I do it right.
Yeah. So each of these sites, as Mark was saying, we visit during our vegetation surveys. We call these aquatic resource observation sites, or AROSs. And these correlate exactly with the AVAS surveys that PLM was doing historically. So AVAS, Aquatic Vegetation Assessment Site, very similar. At each of these spots, we record every species that we see for density, distribution, and height in the water column. And from that, we can make mapping of the distribution and density of these species. And so we also build different ecological metrics from our collected data. So the 5 main metrics that we look at in our reporting are species richness, which is the number of species present, Shannon Biodiversity Index, which is all the plant diversity in the lake, Shannon Morphology Index, which is the structure of that plant community, the Floristic Quality Index, which in general terms is the ratio of our high quality native species to our lower quality invasive species on the lake. So higher numbers in those metrics, meaning that there's a more favorable ratio there. And then recreational nuisance presence, which is more of a professional metric that we kind of assess when we're out there. Are these plants causing a nuisance to recreational conditions on the lake? So not only are they invasive, but maybe some of our native species are growing really densely in an area and that could impede boating or swimming. And so we make note of those areas too. And so what we saw this year from those metrics was really favorable ecological metrics on the lake. We saw an increase in species richness throughout the summer. We saw really stable or increasing trend lines throughout all of our other metrics. The only thing that we saw that kind of got a little worse in the growing season was the recreational nuisance presence, but that's not out of the ordinary because as we progress in our growing season, those native plants are growing up to the surface and flowering. And I'm sure anybody who does any recreation in that eastern shallow end of the lake where that tall wild celery is flowering in the late summer kind of knows what I'm talking about there. And so again, like really favorable ecological metrics. And when we compare these metrics to some of our other lakes that we do surveys on, we saw that it compares pretty favorably to our other lakes, but we also saw a relatively high Shannon biodiversity index compared to other lakes that we survey on. So that just shows that there's a lot of native species diversity in the lake.
And as Stanley continues on with the slides, one of the reasons why we use these metrics is there's a tendency in plant management to say, let's go survey the lake and what do we need to kill? You know, what's a nuisance or what's invasive? That's what we focus on. That's what we kill. The idea of getting a little bit more comprehensive or a lot more comprehensive is you're looking at the whole plant community. So as one thing is impacted by a treatment, other plants are going to respond. And so the idea of the metrics is saying, well, what does that response look like in the overall quality of the plant habitat versus just saying, yep, that milfoil is gone. But saying, all right, what came back in its place, and is it improving the condition, the habitat conditions of the lake? And that's the point of the metrics. Yes, sir.
Just a question. So going back to the slide before where you got from species richness, you want the range to be 5 to 30, but you got NA for a goal. Is that because we just want to be somewhere in that range? There's not a bad place.
Yeah, so something that the metric doesn't really pick up on when you're looking at species richness is we just look at all the species present, but unlike the floristic quality index, which kind of ranks them like invasive versus native, that is just a measure of all species. So not all species are necessarily favorable in a lake. So in this 23 species includes your Eurasian water milfoil and your starry stonewort and species that maybe are a little less favorable for lake conditions. So we don't have a management goal for that, but I would say around, less than 16 is like where we're seeing not a lot of biodiversity, and you'll start seeing these other metrics kind of tank. And then anything higher than 20 is where you really start to see a good lift in those biodiversity and morphology indexes.
One of the things with that number, the species richness number is, and we've seen this before, is, and it kind of comes back to the idea of kind of the independent look at the lake is we're very thorough in terms of what we look at. We've seen comparisons literally within a day of when we've surveyed by the applicators, and then we'll say there were 23 species we observed, and they'll say they saw 13. And so that idea is where's the balance? And the next slide is really kind of interesting, and Natalie will point out of not just the good, the bad, and the ugly, but focusing on the really good and why it's important to know that it's there in the lake. Is if they're overlapping with an invasive that you're treating, you have to be thinking about that. Are we hurting a valuable species in the lake?
Yeah, so here we have broken out between our early and late season surveys, all of the species that we saw on the lake. Here highlighted in red are our invasives that we saw. So we have Eurasian water milfoil, starry stonewort, curly-leaf pondweed, and Phragmites. So you can see that the native plant community, before we even start to see Eurasian water milfoil, makes up the majority of coverage on the lake. And I've highlighted here in green 2 species that of interest that we saw. These are highlighted in green because another metric that we look at that's included in the final reporting is the C score, the C value, which is the coefficient of conservation, in which we have all of these species in Michigan are assigned a value 0 through 10. our invasive species are given a 0 because they are not indicative of high quality habitats and they can be found almost anywhere. Whereas our rarer species or our species that are of higher conservation value are given higher scores. And so wild celery and white stem pondweed that are highlighted on here, which had higher coverages on the lake, have some of the higher C scores that we saw. I believe that they were 7 and 8 for wild celery and white stem pondweed respectively, and again, that's out of 10. We also saw our Nightella had a high C score, but we just saw a little bit of coverage of that. And you can see here that the majority of the coverage that we saw was from our native Cara, so that's a macroalgae species. Sometimes it's called the lawn of the lake, so that's kind of the plant that's hanging out down there. It's like a little bit grassy, it's non-rooted. And we saw a healthy increase of that throughout the growing season too. And you want to see spikes in that and not spikes in this guy, starry stonewort, which can grow up to the surface. And we don't see Cara exhibiting that same behavior.
And interesting, the Cara and starry stonewort are very close. They're both algae. They're called macroalgae because they're large scale. And they're both calcareous. So that's why they're crunchy as you walk on them. And what's interesting about these two algae, we lump them in as plants, is they actually pull phosphorus out of the water column. They don't have root systems like the other plants that, are on that list that are deriving the nutrients from the sediment. They'll actually, it's got kind of a cleansing effect. So we look at it as there's always a balance in terms of what you want to maintain, what you want to remove. And what happens with starry stonewort, it looks similar to Cara, but it'll grow up in the same patches. Makes it tough to treat because you want to treat a single stalk. That's virtually impossible when you're just putting kind of a broad application on a lake. So in some of those cases, we'll just say we won't treat it there because Cara is a big bed of Cara, depending on how you want to pronounce it, which is very, very valuable. And you don't want to lose that. We've seen where people said, well, I don't like to walk on the crunch. They've targeted the removal, the treatment of Cara as an algae. The next year, it went from about 40% coverage in that lake to less than 1% coverage, and milfoil went from 1% up to 40%, Eurasian water milfoil. So it's always a caution on what you remove, something that's going to take its place. And so having the broader base of plant information is really important in making those decisions.
So from our vegetation mapping, we can create these density and distribution maps. So this is a 3D density map that we have. I know it might be hard for people in the back to see, but these are color-coded dots that we have at each of our AROS locations that indicate the amount of 3D density that we saw. And that metric is the coverage distribution and then height in the water column of that species. So that it captures, the full scale of how those species are growing. And we've seen the most throughout our surveys, we saw the most vegetation growth in this eastern bay of the lake and then up here in this north central cove, our two most densely vegetated areas throughout both surveys. So this is all of the vegetation that we saw in June, and then this is all the vegetation that we saw during our September survey event. So again, same thing, denser over here in the northern central bay of the lake. And so what we can do is we can also tease out specific species of interest too. So this was probably even harder for people to see in the back, but Eurasian water milfoil is one of the species of concern on the lake, an invasive species. And so we can tease that out and look at just the coverage and distribution of that species. And what we've seen is kind of in June, we saw it in this eastern side of the lake, and then it had a little bit more distribution, especially around the boat launch. That was one of our hot spots for invasive species this year. And then again, it's picking up a little bit of coverage here in the eastern side of the lake and a little bit along the drop off. So creating maps like this is really pertinent for us to be able to track how it's moving over time, and then also how we can assess the efficacy of any treatments that occurred on the lake. And we'll get into the treatment mapping and what we saw from there.
Question, is that hotspot because of boat washing or lack thereof?
Yeah, I would say of lack thereof. So we saw, I have starry stonewort on the next slide too. Here at the boat launch is definitely a hotspot for those invasive species, and the thought is that they're coming off of the boats there, and then there's just a lot of disturbance in that area as well.
Yeah, both of those plants will fragment and disperse, so like, if they come in on a boat, suddenly they take root or take hold, the next boat comes along, the boat prop will chop them up. Well, all of those fragments can then disperse with the wind, and where they can settle out, they can they can regrow, basically. It's just, you're taking a clipping, you're planting it somewhere else. So that's the challenge with those plants, especially in high traffic boat areas.
So here's our Starry Stonework again in June. It's kind of around that boat launch area, and then we saw it in September pretty densely in some of these, kind of in that emergent wetland area in the eastern part of the lake. Like we were seeing it in some of those boat lanes, again, highly disturbed areas with a lot of boat traffic, where potentially it's stirring those up and cutting the species. We did receive a question from the invasive species committee when we presented these figures earlier on why has the starry kind of moved. And if you recall back in that species coverage graph, we saw that uptick in Cara. So the thought is that in some of these locations, as the growing season is progressing, Cara is becoming more competitive in those areas, which is again what we hope to see, because starry stonework provides nuisance conditions often especially in shallower waters, whereas we don't see that with our native Cara. And so this is our tracking from over time. So the 2021 through 2024 data is what we pulled off of historic PLM reports. And we have 2025 data here. And as you can see, milfoil, which is this blue line, and curly pondweed, this orange line, have exhibited declining trends over time. And that kind of makes sense. It was in 2021, I believe, or 2022, where there was a big 50-acre treatment on the eastern end of the lake for Eurasian water milfoil. And so you see that decline. And then here in recent years, there's been a little bit of an increase. So tracking these trends is important to not only see what's happening over time, but then catch if there's anything different. So here, these past few years, there's been a little bit less treatment area. And then we've seen maybe a little increase of that particular species. So that's something that we're definitely interested in continuing to track. And then we're seeing an uptick in starry stonework coverage over time, although we did see a little less of it this year than what was seen in the previous year. And Phragmites, which is this brown line, is maintaining a relatively consistent trend over time. And the main management strategy for that has been to do periodic spot treatments on where we're seeing that species. And then there's also been a European frogbit discovery. And I believe last year there was a large hand pulling effort. We didn't see it in any of our surveys this year. However, at separate observations in September and October, we were able to go into the wetland area in October. We physically walked in, and we did see the species in there. So that's an invasive species that we want to watch out for. That's not necessarily captured in these graphics, but in future surveys, we will include walking into those AROS locations, getting out of the boat and surveying for these species so that we can accurately track that over time.
I think one of the key treatment aspects that's been added in the last couple of years, it's really important, is for the Phragmites. It spreads like wildfire. And so if you can treat it late in the years when it's most susceptible to herbicide treatments, if you treat it when you have small patches, it's way more effective to keep it under control than it is to kind of let it go wild and try to cut it back. Chesapeake Bay is a great example of this. 15 years ago, it was not there. After about 10 years, it covered almost 50% of the wetlands in the Chesapeake Bay. And their goal was not to eradicate it. Their goals was saying, well, let's try to keep it at 40% coverage. So if we can keep it down to less than 1 or 2% coverage in these local wetlands, and it may be a recurrent year after year where it pops up, it's a way better game plan than just letting it go and then trying to fight it after it's too late.
So here is the treatment map provided by PLM in their aquatic nuisance control permit for the treatment that occurred on June 10th. And so there's 3 treatment areas. It totaled around 5 acres, I believe. I think even less than that. And that was in this kind of cove area here, the marina here, and the Easy Street Canal. And so as part of our scope, we attended each of those treatment areas on this treatment date, and we witnessed the application, and then we followed up during our early season survey to observe the treatment effect. And during our early season survey in July, we saw high treatment efficacy, and we saw none of the noted treated invasive species in either of these three areas during the July survey. So that showed good treatment efficacy. We did, however, see the return of curlyleaf pondweed in the Easy Street Canal in the late season. And then again, some milfoil kind of hanging out in that area. So again, that's something that we want to keep track of if maybe larger scale treatments are warranted in the future, or if other site investigations could be done in this area to assess why invasive species communities seem to be so persistent in this zone of the lake. So that was the only township approved in-lake treatments that occurred this year. There were 2 other private treatments that occurred at this cove. Later in the year, I don't have maps for them at this presentation, but they are included in the final report. The other treatment that occurred was a terrestrial Phragmites treatment. And again, we attended that treatment and then followed up 3 weeks post-treatment. And that was in these blue areas. I believe there were about 7 spots that we'd identified in total, and then they additionally found another spot while we were investigating the European frog bit, and we treated that as well. Again, we saw good treatment efficacy 3 weeks post. It's kind of a little bit difficult to see because at that point it was late October, and that's kind of the natural decline of species. So we will continue to track that in our upcoming surveys this summer to see the full treatment impact. And again, this has kind of been like the historic treatment for this species, is kind of targeting where they're popping up on the lake. So our last vegetation monitoring figure here is just a comparison of what we saw between our early and late season surveys, so this is the July and September surveys. And as I mentioned earlier, it is common for us to see an increase in species throughout the growing season because it's later in the summer, the species have had more time to take root. So we did see that increase in Eurasian water milfoil and starry stonewort, but again, we didn't see the Eurasian water milfoil in any of those treatment areas. So that indicated pretty favorable treatment outcomes. There was no direct management action on the starry stonewort this year. So again, that 0.4% increase is kind of to be expected. Curlyleaf pondweed, again, we did see it return in the Easy Street Canal area, but it declined throughout the summer, but that's pretty typical of the species. And then Phragmites remained the same, but before the Phragmites treatment occurred after our surveys this year. So that makes sense. So no direct management action on the Phragmites or the starry stonewort is captured in these metrics. We see a decline in curlyleaf pondweed, and we do see a slight uptick in Eurasian water milfoil, but not in the areas that were treated. And so now we're gonna leapfrog again, and Mark will kind of describe some of our water quality sampling.
So one of the things we'll try to do here through in the rest of the slides, we'll try to weave in kind of the bigger picture story with what we're seeing with some of the monitoring. Now, phosphorus is really kind of one of the critical targets when we sample water quality for, we say nutrients, there's nitrogen, there's phosphorus, freshwater systems, it's really almost always about phosphorus. And we'll talk about why that's becoming important here. So these were the storm drains that we sampled in May of this year. There was about a 1/4 inch of rain before we started sampling. During that period of sampling, there was another 1/4 inch, so about a 1/2 inch of rain fell. So there's storm drains. So there's water flowing, there's runoff, and we're trying to pick up water that's representative of actual wet weather flows. These 4 red dots are the locations that have been established previously. These are right around the corner here, obviously. We try to get as close to the lake as we could, so we're capturing as much of the adjacent drainage as we can. Some of these, it's a little bit tough to get in. At the site 7, there's a pretty big wetland complex, and the creek just kind of vanishes amongst the cattail. So we couldn't get right down to the lake there. So where we sampled, we think was representative. And then at SD6, there's a small stormwater detention basin there. There wasn't enough flow at the time that basin was dumping into that ditch. So kind of a busy figure, but this again is going back to 2013. And here we're focused on total phosphorus. I think one of the things we're gonna emphasize next year is we wanna look at soluble phosphorus. Total phosphorus is everything. It's dirt, it's silt, it's soluble. And it's a generally an overall good characterization of the nutrient condition of the lake. But soluble phosphorus is really becoming so much more important because that's what's driving algal growth, and especially blue-green algae. And we'll talk about that in a minute. So this was our sampling period here. The number doesn't necessarily reflect that. We went back 3 days, but that number is a little bit more, it was a real tight. I mean, it happened just at the time, so it shows 0. But the little dots here are about how much rainfall. This is inches of precipitation here. So in general, as we look back, you can see some of these higher flows have higher concentrations of phosphorus. That makes sense. You have more wash off on the pavement, but it's hard to predict because it could go weeks and weeks and weeks without rain, and a small rain picks up all the debris that had been on the pavement. But if you have rainstorms over several days, if you're sampling at the end of that period, everything's already washed off. And so they kind of call that the first flush. And so you can have no rain for weeks. That first hour of rainfall is going to flush 90% of all the pollutants off the surface. And it can keep raining for another 3 days, and that's only 10% of those pollutants that are on the surface that come out. So it's not a perfect sampling system, but it does give us an indication that in some of the periods where we have wetter conditions, we do have higher phosphorus concentrations. But again, if we were in this area of rainfall, we saw a fair amount of phosphorus coming in. Now these levels, if we go across here, these are about 30 to 50 parts per billion or micrograms per liter. That's not unusual for storm drains. In fact, those are probably fairly low. We can see in large urbanized areas, those things going up to 100 times, even 100 times higher than that, depending where you're at. Agriculture, you get big runoff, big numbers. This is a fairly small drainage area for these drains, so we're not seeing high numbers. Not a whole lot of concern for these, and if they've consistently been low over the years, we would suggest that maybe we don't need to keep sampling this every year or all of them. This is just kind of a summary table of what we looked at here. We have the total phosphorus that we just saw in the graph. We looked at nitrate. We measure flow. This is an important parameter. How much water is actually moving through it and how much mass of pollutant is in that volume of water that's moving through is critical to come up with what we call a load, a mass loading of pollutant, which is pounds per day. And that could be for phosphorus and nitrate. So what we see is that 7th Street, or the site number 7, the First Street drain, this is about, in wet weather, about 2.3 pounds of phosphorus per day washed into the lake. Figure 60 wet days a year, the math says it's 120 pounds a year. We'd have to go back and look at what does that mean from the last watershed management plan and the mass balance of phosphorus. Is that just a blip, or is that something important? Of all of these, I think looking at this strain, if there was a focus on something, that number 7 would be the site where we'd keep coming back to. So we also, I mentioned before, sampled the tributaries twice, once in the early season survey, once in the late season survey. In July, there was a little bit of precipitation just before July 2nd. There was no rainfall before September 3 sampling. So same thing with storm drains. When water washes off the landscape into a creek, it picks up materials. In agricultural settings, it can be a lot of sediment, a lot of nutrients. In urban settings, it's often more sediments than it is nutrients. But we looked at a number of creeks or a number of tributaries in both of these samplings. And let me get to some of the data and we can talk about what we were seeing. So again, we go back in time. We go back 5 years based on information that PLM had reported. And we look at the different creeks that we had sampled, and there's a few that are beginning to stand out. McCormick Creek, again, we're looking at total phosphorus in this case. But Corbin Creek stands out, Onekama Creek stands out. If we look at what's happening over time, this is a trend line. It's not the perfect fit. It's not, you're not following the peaks. What it's saying is over time, we're trending to start seeing, we're seeing a little more phosphorus in the tributaries. Now that's gonna come with development, with expansion, home practices around the tributaries. But again, this is something that we want to look at. Our suggestion this year will be, we may take a closer look at a couple of these larger tributaries. And the reason why we do that is the same thing as we want to look at the mass loading.
Or did you have a question?
I just trying to, in my mind,
Where's McCormick Creek?
Oh, yeah, do you wanna go back to the map?
Is that in your report, that little legend where the different creeks are?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, so we have McCormick Creek up here, let me see if there's, so this is the boat launch here, and that's the beach, the McCormick Creek coming out,
okay.
to the west of that.
And what brings it into perspective then is not just concentration, but again, coming back to this notion of mass loads. How much, mass of phosphorus are we putting in the lake by tributary? We get that from measured flows times concentration, the correction factor. What's interesting in years past, the flows that have been reported aren't really flows. Flows are cubic feet per second. They were reported as feet per second. We're not sure how those were calculated, but it goes back all the way in the report. So we don't actually know what historical flows were in the previous report. So we're kind of starting a little bit fresh, but these are cubic feet per second. So think of a cube of water that's moving past that spot every second. That gives you a sense of when the creek's wider, you get bigger flows. Shimkey Creek has the largest flow of all the tribs, and that's, from what we can tell in past data, that's pretty consistent. When you put it with concentrations, it's not necessarily the worst in terms of how many pounds of phosphorus are coming to the lake per day. We see that Shimkey Creek in late summer is a little bit higher, but Onekama Creek is also fairly high. We'll come back and we'll talk about, it might be worthwhile just to do either a walk from, where the creek comes in the lake all the way up to the headwaters, or a potential paddle. And just looking at, where's that pipe coming from? It's just identifying what are the potential contributors for that creek. Is there something that can and should be corrected? Now, we'll see this a little bit more when Natalie talks about bacteria. And there's some real, bacteria is one of those, is like, whoa, where's that coming from? Bacteria, these are gut tract bacteria. It's either coming from humans or animals. It could be geese, it could be beavers, it could be cows. But either way, that E. coli numbers that are tested by the county are kind of indicative of that. So we use this particular calculation to come back and say, which are the ones that may be making a difference here in the lake that we might want to look at a little deeper. These are not huge numbers, but they certainly, of the tributaries, we can start to flag which ones of these are potentially making a difference. So in the lake, there were two established deep basins and then 3 established shoreline stations. Those, the pink dots that we see here that we sampled for temperature, dissolved oxygen, conductivity, water clarity out in the lake, and then chlorophyll A samples. Now, one of the other things that we also did in our July sampling, this is the early season survey, is we also collected plankton samples. That's to look at, all right, what's the makeup of the phytoplankton, the plants that are the microscopic plants that are floating in the water column. And we'll talk about that in just a second. So this is a kind of a gnarly looking graph. These are all the data points that have come have been collected over the years, going back to 2013 on Portage Lake. This is a trophic state index. So lakes that are really clean, like Lake Superior, oligotrophic, there's very little plant growth, very little plankton growth, and there's mesotrophic, that's in the middle. You get more aquatic production than eutrophic, which is, the lake gets green, and then hypereutrophic, That's the lakes that are just a mess continuously with algae and blue-green algae. So the categories here are kind of color coded. The blue is oligotrophic, and again, all of these numbers are representative of Portage Lake. It's either for water clarity, that's the Secchi disc reading, total phosphorus, that's the water quality, or chlorophyll A, that's the indication of how much plant material is in the lake. So these other colors are what we saw in 2025. It's a pretty wide band for the most part. Portage Lake is usually in this band of oligotrophic to mesotrophic. Just means it's a higher quality lake. We would expect that. We're northern Michigan Lake. If you were always up here higher, we'd say we've got problems and we need to look. And we'll talk about this in just a second. Briefly, this is the water clarity. This is the Secchi disc. This is that black and white disc that's lowered over the side of the boat. You just lower it down, you watch to see where you can't. When you don't see it anymore, you just measure how much rope is above that disc, and that's the Secchi depth. That usually corresponds to about the 1% light limit. In other words, that's how far the photosynthetic needs go for algae in terms of depth in the water column. So it's fairly stable. This year and last year, fairly average. In 2024, actually, we saw some pretty good clarity on the lake. This is somewhat of a suspect measure if you have waves, if you're on the shady side of the boat. So there's some noise in the system, but when you see real sharp trends, that's when you start to think we've got to be looking elsewhere and why we've seen those sharp trends. So this is chlorophyll A. This is the measure of plant pigments, phytoplankton plant pigments in the water column, and we see periodic spikes going back to 2015. The last couple of years have all been low. This is somewhat of a downward trend. Something happened around 2021, besides COVID, that gave us a little bit of spike in the chlorophyll A. But these numbers would be probably considered mesotrophic to eutrophic back in that classification scheme. These numbers would suggest oligotrophic, the most clean or unproductive lakes. So now we get into total phosphorus, which one of the challenges that we've seen in the past data set is if you look at these, they're all at 8. It's impossible to get 8 parts per billion year after year after year. What it is that's the laboratory detection limit. It's not stated that, but that's normally when you get a laboratory detection limit of 8, you put a caveat and say, well, somewhere less than 8, it could be 0, it could be 7.99, we don't know.
Which is good.
Yeah, total phosphorus, yeah, that low, it's not bad. It's not a bad thing, but what we do see is periodically we are seeing some spikes, and this year we have a much lower detection limit. The lab we use is out of Traverse City in their research lab, and they get down to 2 parts per billion versus 8. Now that's important when we start talking about phosphorus. So we did see, and this is what has us a little concerned, a little questioning, this huge spike in July of phosphorus. These are very high numbers for Portage Lake, 50. We looked at quality assurance, quality control. Was there an issue there? And the story gets interesting. We don't feel that there was a sampling quality issue. That important. That's surface water. So that's about 3 feet below the surface. This is bottom water. This is about 3 feet. The sample comes about 3 feet off the bottom. The reason why bottom water sampling is important for phosphorus is if the sediments, after centuries and centuries of having plants live and die and rain down, those plants still have phosphorus in them. Over time, as oxygen leaves the water column in these deep areas, because it doesn't circulate, you set up a condition where phosphorus accumulated in the sediments now starts burping, starts releasing back in the water column. Just south of us here, 80 miles, 100 miles, is Mona Lake in Norton Shores over by Muskegon. These numbers in the bottom are at right around 40. They were at 400, and that was just for soluble phosphorus. So similar to you guys, when Lake Michigan winds come in or Lake Michigan water comes in, Again, it stirs up the thermocline there. It would stir up all that high phosphorus levels from the bottom, and they have blue-green algal blooms continuously. So the treatment there was suppress the phosphorus. So they went from 400 down to less than 4 after treatment. That largely solved the blue-green algal problems they had. So this is an indicator, again, this is the total phosphorus, but an indicator that we saw some phosphorus at the bottom, but then in September wasn't there. Here's one of our prevailing theories. We're doing a lot of work on lakes with blue-green algae. And before I get to that discussion slide, let's just note that there are good things that are happening there. Some of the total Kjeldahl nitrogen, it's a couple different forms of nitrogen coming together in one parameter. Ammonia, these values have been consistent. We don't show the graph, it's in the report.
Yeah.
But the idea here is there's not a lot of badness happening in other parameters. Dissolved oxygen profiles, which is really great for the lake, is even some of the northernmost lakes here in Michigan, in the bottom waters, when you get the temperature stratification about halfway through the water column, there's no mixing. So oxygen just gets chewed up. Not great for fish when it's less than 3 milligrams per liter. State standard is 5. But when it goes to 0, that means that you're not going to have any, fish in that bottom of the lake. We don't show the profile here, it's in the report, but for Portage Lake, it usually stays above 3 all the way down to the bottom. That's huge. That's a huge deal, because that means that's suitable fish habitat throughout the water column. How Lake Michigan influences that, maybe a little, but for the most part, that's good news, because you don't have oxygen depletion.
The times where you saw those high phosphorus concentrations, was there DL samples taken in the
Yeah.
hypothetical?
Yeah, and
they were above
there was plenty of oxygen.
There was what?
There was plenty of oxygen at the time. So here's where we're going with this. So one of the last things we'll talk about here in terms of this lake sampling was for what's the phytoplankton in the lake? Is it green algae? Is it blue-green algae? Is it brown algae? Green algae and anything but blue-green algae is usually pretty good for a lake ecosystem. When you get a lot of blue-greens, that's when you have the chance where you start to see these surface mats forming in a calm day. And those are the blooms you see. Some of these blue-greens produce toxins. And you could produce, in a harmful algal bloom event, they could produce toxins that are dangerous for pets, for swimmers. It's a big deal. What's interesting here and I'll just show you some fun pictures, is these are diatoms. These are silicone-based, beautiful. I mean, these are microscopic, but these are really cool plankton. They're very good. These are bad. These are the blue-green algae. They're typically in long chains. They are very competitive against green algae. Green algae are really preferred by all your zooplankton. And these can form these mats at the surface and cause problems. Then you've got the pyrophyta. These are dinoflagellates. These are actually plants, microscopic, but they're just, that's why I love these phytoplankton, because you got all these cool things. These are also good, so keep that in mind. And then you've got all these other ones that are kind of lumped in, and this is one of them, which is a chrysophyte. It's called denobrium. It looks like a little plant, but these are all microscopic. Very good. So what we did is we took the sample from July. We kind of broke it down into these major categories here. So the diatoms are a very small slice here. There's about 16%. The cyanophytes, there are two primary ones, is one called microcystis, the other one called Dilacosperma, and both of these form toxins. But that's over 60% of that mass of plankton out there. That's alarming to us. And you've got smaller fractions. So that was in Basin 1 in July. This is Basin 2 in July. And now we're seeing an even larger percentage of blue-green algae out there in the water column. And what we do is we take a net, we lower it down about 2/3 of the way in the water column, and you just literally pull the net up, and it's a mesh, and it just filters out the water, and the phytoplankton are concentrated in a little jar. You cap it, send it to the lab. So we still see this large predominance, in the other basin as well in midsummer. This is the time where we had high phosphorus. The crazy thing about these blue greens is they have what's called luxury uptake of phosphorus. It's like when I sit down at night in front of the TV, I could eat a bowl of popcorn, and I could eat a bag of popcorn, and usually it's the bag. So that's what these guys do with phosphorus. They'll uptake phosphorus and concentrate it in their cells. They don't use it immediately, but they can concentrate it. We've seen crazy numbers in one of our lakes up north, Black Lake, sampling this ooze that's on the surface, 1,000 times the phosphorus concentration in that ooze than what's in the water. These plants just take it and absorb it. So the question that we would have is, if these were that prevalent out there in the water column, were these actually holding phosphorus, and that was potentially representative of what we were seeing? It's a theory. It's not a complete and absolute, but it's something that we're thinking about, because we don't see any tributary flows that we're saying, wow, look at that. There's a huge flood from the ag fields rushed in the lake. You see dark plume. We didn't have that. So what we want to do is go back, and Natalie set this up, looking at some of the PLM data. Now, we don't have any of the lab reports that, you get the finite percentages that we've just showed, but it was kind of a general observational narrative commentary that they had. Unfortunately, in the last 5 years of that period in the top line, it was the same thing repeated year after year, same narrative, same sentence, same stop. We don't know. But what we're seeing in the time that we sampled is you had, in some of those early years, you had a lot of the blue greens, and then you had some domination by the diatoms, a good thing. But that wasn't the case this year. We went to end of the year, it was always the cyanophytes, the blue greens, that seemed to be popular in the lake. Most zooplankton won't eat blue-green algae. They'll pass it through their system. The zebra mussels, Dresden mussels do the same thing. Those mussels that sit in the rocks filter water. They want the green algae. They actually let the blue greens pass through them. It's a great competitive advantage for the blue greens. And they typically, you'll see them bloom in late in the year. So there has been, for the last decade, an indication that there's a lot of blue-green in the lake. You haven't seen the surface blooms, and that's a good thing. But it's something that in the last 10 years, especially in northern Michigan, you've seen the prevalence of blue-green algal blooms picking up. Even in Lake Superior, that never had blooms before, the shorelines are starting to see blooms. They're saying warmer water, longer growing season, those are all competitive for the blue-green algae, and phosphorus is usually the stimulant. So we'll come back and we'll talk about some of the other issues that we want to look at for phosphorus. One of our lakes, old septic systems, 800 homes, even in a 10,000 acre lake, sampling says tributaries are great. It's all septic systems. So those are questions that we want to bring up, because once these cycles of blue-green algal blooms start, they're hard to break. And so managing now what could be stimulating those is important. Natalie, I'll let you kind of wrap up the last two slides here.
Yeah, so another thing that we looked at this year was our E. coli monitoring, and we looked at the data that was collected by the Manistee District Health Department. So they collected on 6 different days throughout the summer at 11 different stations. We saw really low values in lake, so that's good. As Mark touched on earlier, E. coli is that gut tract bacteria, and it can cause some human health concerns. And so low in lake values, the lowest values were at the Portage Point Resort. And then we saw levels in general were highest in June, and then they declined throughout the remaining of those dates. The two notable things that we saw in the health department E. coli monitoring were that all samples from the Easy Street influx exceeded water quality standards. And those are 300, most probable number, for total body contact, and 1,000 for partial body contact. So this is that Easy Street Canal area. There's that pipe that's in that area. And so when the Manistee District Health Department sampled that, all samples throughout the summer from that area exceeded water quality standards for either total or partial body contact. And then we saw similar in Shimpy Creek in June and July. So those are two areas that we are seeing as kind of hotspots for that E. coli loading. I think our leading theory for the Shimkey Creek might be the fairgrounds that are really close by. And honestly, for the Easy Street influx, it's kind of more of an unknown, and we'd like to do some more investigation in that area. But we're theorizing that maybe septic system loading could be at play there.
I
Yes.
just want to know when, those samples from a few years back from District Health Department number 10 were analyzed by Ferris University. They found the E. coli to be an animal origin at that time,
Mhm.
but you know, it's still a concern. Do you have access to that the qPCR to, no?
That's part of the challenge.
Yeah.
So, well, as you're describing it, is if the results are from Ferris State, they'll come in lab reports, they'll be QA, QC.
Mhm.
Having that information is really valuable versus what we were showing as kind of the narrative. Health department, we really trust. I mean, they're doing the sampling all the time, and it's been a great data set.
Yeah, so this particular data didn't have the source of it, but that is something that could be looked into.
Any sampling that has been done using artificial sweetener as a tracer on any of this,
For a septic system
the
district.
septic system involvement.
Yeah, that's one of the things that has been used over the years. It's not entirely reliable. What we typically see is if we sample for soluble phosphorus, it can go really high. And then if we also see bacteria, E. coli or totocoliform, that's a good indication. At that point, we come back and like Ferris State did is we'll do a PCR analysis, as they call it, to look at the DNA. Is it from cow? Is it from a human? That's kind of how things have been processed. The sweeteners are still used in some cases, but that's another analysis. And so.
You have to have a GCMS to be able, and it's fairly expensive to do it, but based on research that's been done in Canada and other places of the United States, it's been listed as a fairly conservative substance. We don't take it. We ingest it, it passes through our system. So
Right.
If you find artificial sweetener in the water column, the only place it can come from is the septic system.
Right, and
So
there's,
even in very low
yeah,
concentration.
what we often do is we do the lead-in of E. coli, and if we're seeing high E. coli, that's when we'll usually do the DNA testing. And we've got a lake where really high E. coli, and we think it's beavers.
Yeah.
But the database for DNA on beavers is pretty limited, and so we're like, all right, well, who can tell us that this is out of the backside of a beaver or out of our backside of a septic system? So there are some questions that come up that we typically don't use that, but it has been used in the past, certainly, with success.
Yeah. So just to summarize everything that we have said so far is that in general, we saw favorable ecological conditions. If you recall that table that we had of those metrics that we look for in our lake stand, we saw favorable outcome of current management actions. So in those treatment areas, we didn't see the invasive species during our follow-up visit after treatment. We did see in those coverage graphs some invasive species increasing that is pretty directly correlated to a decline in the acreage of treatment. So it's kind of like give and take, more treatment area, potentially less invasive species coverage. And we saw that storm drain number 7 was the leading contributor of TP and nitrate, and that Onekama and Shimkey Creeks were the leading contributors of phosphorus. We saw that allegiotrophic to mesotrophic levels of lake productivity. And then again, we saw those kind of concerningly high TP values in July, but we also saw that dominance of blue-green algae that could also influence those high levels that we were seeing. And then that Easy Street Canal and Shimkey Creek locations as E. coli sources. So these are kind of our hit list of like the main things that we try to highlight today and the main things that we saw that were a problem in our final reporting. And based off of what we saw there, we had recommended the following 5 things in our final reporting. So we have been in discussion a lot with the Invasive Species Committee about alternative management for star stonewort, getting away from those copper-based algicides and potentially doing some diver manual removal. So we're exploring different pathways there as potential ways to keep monitoring that increase in coverage. And then we'll continue to assess the smaller scale treatments on Eurasian water milfoil. Because again, bigger treatments, less coverage of the species. As we continue to do smaller treatments, maybe it's more effective as terms of, the cost. But if we start to see those increases, maybe we'll do larger scale ones or recommend larger scale ones. We also saw maybe the need for some late season management options. We did see that uptick in invasive species throughout the growing season, and we saw the return of the curly pondweed in a treatment area. So potentially there might be some need to hit those areas again. We also have a lot of interest in investigating the Easy Street Canal, just as a vector for nutrient loading. Again, like where is that E. coli coming from? At Shimkey Creek, maybe it can be chalked up to animals there at the fairgrounds, but at the Easy Street Canal, that's a little bit less of a correlation that we have there. So we're really interested in exploring that in 2026. And then based on what we saw, we are very interested in altering some of our sampling strategy to target specific areas and parameters of concern. So that kind of correlates to the stuff that you didn't see today. So we dropped off a lot of our figures that are included in the final reporting on ammonia and TKN and other things that we didn't really see high loading in. And so in future monitoring, we're interested in exploring more of those phosphorus levels rather than our levels that are consistently low. Okay, and that is what we have. So if there are any questions that anybody has, I know there's a lot of information all at once. There's even more in the report if anybody is up to reading it.
Question, thank you.
Yeah.
When you looked at the plants all around the lake, pretty much near shore, any indication of total amount of biomass, plant biomass in terms of this lake compared to other lakes of similar size? You indicated we're pretty close to a lake of trophic, so, but it seems to be, especially at the end of the year, there's a lot of plant mass out there.
So we saw, not necessarily in biomass, but we saw coverage increase from around 40% of coverage to 60% between our two surveys. So again, that's that late season growth of species that we see. And then, so a little bit of that species increase, and then, there's a lot of those native species growth in that eastern portion of the lake.
But the 3D density also picks up the height of the plant and the water column. So the coverage, maybe just describe coverage.
Yeah. So at each of our locations, we're looking at the coverage and distribution of those species. So how common is it and how dense is it? So if they're like in really tight pockets, but only in one spot, that is picked up in the metric, and then the height in the water column as well. So, and then the other thing that I wanted to touch on, and that's where my brain was working, I knew that there was another part of your question. We did compare Portage Lake to other lakes that we performed surveys on. And we did compare like species richness, which could kind of give you an estimate of the amount of species in Portage Lake compared to other lakes. But we did see higher biodiversity metrics, which does kind of indicate the higher coverage of invasive species. We didn't look at total coverage, but that is something that we can tease out in our databases. But I would say in comparison to the lakes that we compared Portage Lake to, it was very similarly vegetated. So you have those kind of sandbar areas in the lake that are very minimally vegetated, and then you have some shallow coves and bays that are pretty densely vegetated.
I was just gonna ask, because you touched on this, so how does lake level correlate with all these other variables that you've talked about? Because I mean, the big picture, the lake levels change 4 or 5 feet in the last several years.
Yeah.
Well, I think in terms of what's interesting about the way we survey is it's always a very consistent assessment of the area has water and has plants. Now, physiologically, if the lake level drops and now you start to get exposed shorelines where you've got some vegetative mass, it'll dry up, it'll desiccate depending on how long the level's down. Something will eventually grow back when lake levels come up, and we know Michigan cycles. It's part of the natural cycling. Lakes that are highly manipulated in terms of inflows and outflows, they can have much more dramatic changes in the plant community,
Mhm.
probably than what you'd see here. We were just discussing this, hey, when water level's down, is there anything that could be done, should be done? I think in areas where you have a lot of vegetation, you could certainly, we've got leaves and debris tend to get held by plants when there's enough water. Just raking that out and
If they let us right now.
yeah. It pulling some out, that debris out is never a bad thing.
Okay.
The reason that E. coli it's not an issue in the lake, but if you're living near any of those tributaries where it's coming in, E. coli, we used to think that, hey, sunlight was a disinfectant, it would kill it. E. coli has this a nature that it can actually survive as long as there's continued organic material, organic matter. Some cases, septic systems, it can live and thrive in sediments. So especially those loose ones, they can actually live and thrive in attached algae like cladophora on rocks in the splash zone. It's the craziest thing. So it used to be like, hey, it's not a big deal if it's sunlight is exposed, but it tends to hang around a lot. So that's why looking at it in some of those tributary areas is important then for considering probably homes that are near that. And, is it residing in the sediments? We've done testing in sediments where you can stir them up and suddenly the water column is just filled with E. coli.
Mhm.
Because they reside in the sediments. So.
Question. You mentioned, first flush phenomenon, and when you were doing your sampling, do you have any indication how close you were to getting to like first flush? First flush could be very, very dramatic in terms of.
Oh, you're just ridiculous, dramatic, and it could be happening literally 15 minutes in a half hour. Okay, so the hydrograph is usually fairly during a big storm where you got a lot of pavement, the water flow goes up quickly. And then it may tail off for a long time as it continues to wash. But the pollutants, if you map them, as the pollutants are slightly delayed at the peak and they'll just boom. And then even though the flows are still flowing, it'll drop down. The concentrations will drop down to almost nothing. So it's a really narrow window. I had one time in my 40+ years where I stood over a manhole and I got first flush. And it was horrifying. E. coli was off the charts, and an hour later, you couldn't detect it. So it's a hit and miss, but it's important.
I've caught it several times. I mean, in Grand Rapids on Southern Street.
Yeah, it's
The
disturbing.
wave, you can just see the wave coming down.
Yeah.
From
Nothing, and then
with a
just,
lot of impermeable area, all of a sudden there's a wave that's coming down.
Yeah.
And you grab samples from that and shortly thereafter, it's like the loading is incredible.
so you're fortunate here that there's only small drainage. There's not a lot of impervious hard surface here for those drains. You can look up some of them and they're not pretty right now this time of the year, but it's such a small drainage that we look at the pollutant mass loading, which really is telling that it's there, but in comparison to other sources, it may not be that important. Things are always could be done, but is that a priority? Is the question.
Right. During any of your sampling, did the hypolemmatic minimum never go to zero this year that you witnessed?
I'm sorry. Didn't hear.
Did the hypolemmatic minimum go to zero this year in any of the sampling? That
No, when we sampled, you were still about 3 milligrams per liter in September.
Only like in the sediments.
Like when you
Only
drop
the
the probe.
sediments,
Yeah.
Yeah, but to have that much oxygen in the bottom waters is pretty outstanding.
Well, I think that past sampling that was done by PLM, there were times where it was zero.
Yeah, it very well could, and that's the value of the data set, because if you're having phosphorus and you've got the deal with it, you can plot that, but there was some fairly interesting ways that they had plotted it. What we typically do is say at the time of the event, what's the phosphorus concentration or what's the DO concentration? And that's a trigger. So oftentimes everybody samples total phosphorus, but it's really soluble phosphorus that's critical. If you have high soluble phosphorus, that's sugar water. That's what the phytoplankton, the blue-green algae love. they don't like sticks and leaves that are particulate phosphorus. They want the raw sugar juice to get them going. That's why we sample SRP often.
Very awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah, I know we also brought some copies of a handout. We try to summarize as much as what we said today, so we can leave that here and people can grab it.
That's on this is gonna be multiple choice.
Hope everybody took good notes.
If you do rake all your stuff up, dry it, and put it on the shoreline, please don't light it on fire on a Sunday when it's windy. Okay?
What if I want what if I want the helicopter to
Well,
come?
that's not anymore.
Oh, okay.
A once every 5-year event that never happened, like you never have that.
That was a day.
That was a day. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
thank you all.
I guess, Mr. Dons,
Was not appear to be present.
I see that.
It's a good day for that to be.
Balance sheet, revenue and expense report, monthly invoices, financial reports.
Yeah.
That's an Ed thing.
That's Mr. Bradford.
He's not. How about, PLA? They're all over skip since Ed's gone for a second.
Well, this is not near as exciting as all the colors grabs.
No, man.
So the PLA last year did a strategic plan, kind of reorganized and helped refocus, what the PLA does. I'll paraphrase what I got from one community member was, the PLA seems to want to be more than petunias and fireworks. And we see that PLA could play a leading role in the community. So we developed a project under Cindy's guidance called Community Collaboration. And I provided you all with a printout of it. And I think Jennifer did a PDF of it. Anybody who would like to understand what this is about, if you send me an email, or I won't say inundate Jennifer, but you can always send me an email, JSSEagle, EAGLE at MagTech. And I'll share this with you. But we looked at where are there gaps in leadership that the PLA could play a role in. And I won't go into all of the detail, but we identified that the PLA had a lack of a relationship with local businesses. And now we're trying to find out how can we help local businesses? What role can we play in helping them do more advertising and drawing to the community? We're tying this together with work that we're doing under this with the Tourism Authority and the Chamber of Commerce to try and look at how to revitalize the business community. I'm also working with trying to attract new businesses to come into the area, like a tasting room for beer and wine and distilled products. And we're looking at a bike shop in that conjunction, but try to look at things that we can bring here that might even be able to be open more than just seasonally in the area. We've talked with the Onekama Community Schools, really looking at the school as becoming a community center for the village. There's a lot that can be done there. You're going to get new pickleball courts, but up in that area, they're also creating a huge walking path that will include around the football stadium that will be open to the public. There's going to be a huge community room off the east side of the school that's going to be open for use by the community. It's really unique. It's about 3 times the size of this room. It has its own bathroom. The neat thing is, while it is attached to the school, the doors will be locked down during school hours. So it will allow the community room to be used by the community during school hours even. And Dan Messier has really got a lot of good things going on there. We looked at a lack of relationship that PLA has with the Township Board and the Village Council. Hence, we're going to try and be on the agenda monthly just to see how can we work more closely with not only the Township Board, but the Village Council and what's going on. We looked at the PLA had a diminished, relationship with the Lions Club. We're working on that. Trying to look at cooperation among local churches. And if y'all are, most of you look my age.
Wait a minute.
Yeah. Much younger.
The Congregational Church, Mary Fairgrief's with Near and Far Friends, and Pastor Allison Young up there have created a really great series on helping look at aging in the community. There's a meeting coming up a week from this Friday. Dr. King is coming in from Crystal Clinic to talk about health concerns and how you can get help and everything. So it's something that we're trying to do in that area. We looked at, there's an absence of a downtown development authority, and working, the village would be the ones to do that, but the advantages to having the DDA, and we're talking with what was done up in Frankfurt to see if we can replicate something down this way. Looked at improving our relationship with the Chamber of Commerce and the Tourism Authority. That ties into the local business development. We're also looking at how can we develop better relationships with the PLA being the conduit to have better relationships with other local communities, Arcadia, Calaba, so that we kind of work more as a community group in that. So I wanted to just let the board know this is where we're headed with this. Be welcome to take any information from the board at any time. And on a monthly basis, either I'll show up or another member of the PLA, or Cindy will fill in since she's already here every month. So just wanted you to be aware of what the PLA is trying to do and be a little more, take a little bit more of a leadership role in creating a unified community. So any questions? Okay,
Well, thank you, Joe.
thanks.
Back to you, Ed, treasurer.
So, treasurer's report was in the packet. Tax collections are wrapping up. Need payment by March 2nd, or they turn them over delinquent to the county, so, they're funding fairly well. I don't know if anybody has any questions on the reports that were in the packet, and it's fairly self-explanatory.
Okay. I guess about, year 2027 budget discussion.
I thought we'd do that last, since we have other people here
Okay,
if we
we
want,
can
but
do
it's up to you guys how you wanna handle that.
We can do that. We'll move it. That's fine. Clerk's report.
So there'll be an election in May. That will be for West Shore Community College. Will be on the ballot in May. I anticipate ballots being available towards the end of March to make that 45 day deadline before the election cycle. Again, the Bureau of Elections is anticipating roughly $15,000 per precinct for new equipment. Although there is a push to try to get all or some of that offset in the state budget, but state budget fat lady has not sung yet, so we don't know. That'd be, and that's it.
That's it. Fire department.
Chief Johnson was not able yet to be here. He sent a written report earlier in the day, which you have printed in front of you.
We have switched over the equipment. The new truck is in service.
Correct.
The old one is kind of mothballed or not mothballed, ready for sale. I talked to Josh.
Mhm.
He called me this afternoon, and the entity that's going to express interest in buying the truck is having a special meeting at 7 o'clock tonight. So he told me he can get over me in the morning with the results. But they schedule a special meeting. I assume to follow through on purchase.
It sounds like they already worked on the truck and got the pieces off they needed to get.
We are ready to go. Everything's stripped out of the truck. I think it needs to be. Harbor Commission report.
Spicer issued a preliminary drawing on the paving of the DNR ramp, or area the last couple of weeks ago, and last week DNR gave their comments. And Spicer's got a new drawing out that addressed all those, so. We found out last week that it's gonna take up to 2 months for the DNR to approve anything, so
Really?
we are putting off probably the project until September.
Takes them 2 months to approve parking lot?
Yeah. I even called Casey afterwards and she reaffirmed it, so she can't do anything about it.
I guess DNR's process has changed and it now has to go through Lara, and I mean, there's more steps than there used to be.
Are they putting any money in this?
No. I think,
But they control everything.
I think as Jim, I mean, I haven't been attending the meetings because I just wrote the grant. I mean, I'm,
Right.
haven't done it, but when I, got a hold of, Shane from Spicer, probably about a month ago, I said, hey, we've got grant deadlines coming up. What's going on? And that's when he told me that there was concern about the scope, which I think I reported last month. So I went to the meeting about a week, 10 days ago. And, was trying, I would say, to kind of push it along. And then that's when we found out the time frame. So I do have a meeting with, Laura and foundation team tomorrow to explain this to them, to make sure that we're able to be positioned differently. But as Jim said, it's gonna be September at best.
And the reason why they can't put someone to look at this, or they can't have any oversight that faster than that?
Well, what'll happen, DNR will not sign off until it goes through the state process. And it sounds like there's 2 steps outside of their office that have to happen. Where my disappointment comes is from November till now.
When they say so.
I can't answer that question.
Cause then there's no obligation to share information with other government agencies like that.
So, I mean, Jim's just making you aware that the reality is it's
Okay.
not gonna be done for this season.
Are there still big chuck holes out there?
We won't know until after.
Okay. I mean, did anyone ever level
Yeah, they did
Yeah.
it?
last
Oh,
year.
okay. Okay, well, just so at least it's passable.
It was pretty good last year.
Okay, anything else?
No, that's it.
Are you
I'll
have,
just wait till the end, because the only thing that I have to talk about are the budget items.
okay, well, you know what? Why don't I move Katie up, cause she's sitting here this whole time. We'll move her up, so.
I've got a handful of things for you guys, so I don't
It's
mind.
okay.
Okay. I don't know if you wanted to start with, I know that Jody had let me know that there may be some discussion on for ZBA. If that's, you wanted to start with that, with the ZBA
About the fee
request
for
O'Neill's.
O'Neill's, they got their variance. Then the state building inspector has now come in and said it doesn't meet his standards of what they gave, so they have to go through the whole, they moved it back. I'm gonna say
It was,
6.
they got approved for a 1-foot setback and it's gotta be more like a 2-foot setback, but the way that the zoning works with the zoning board of appeals approval, it's like the ZBA approved what they approved, so even though it's a
Better, it's an
yes,
improvement on it.
lesser setback, we can't, as the zoning administrator, lessen that setback, because we don't have the authority like the ZBA, so it does have to go back through the process, the zoning board of appeals, to remake that request.
And move it a foot or whatever.
We should not charge them.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
and
why,
that was the
yeah.
request coming before you guys, was to waive the fee for them to then go through the process
wasn't
again.
their fault. I mean, this has never happened. As far as I know, the entire time I've been here doing anything with the township.
We probably never had a request quite like this before.
No, they've had people encroach on, I've just never, they have a new building inspector.
Yeah,
brand
it
new.
is a close setback, but I am not familiar with this having come up previously. I know, yeah, I mean, it's pretty unique, but I've never heard of this state building code setback, cause I even think about like in the city, you know, downtown, there's 0-foot setbacks. A lot of ordinances have 0-foot setbacks and it's never appeared to be an issue.
Did we
So-
verify that there's language in the state building code that
Oh, yeah.
addresses that?
Jody spent quite a bit of time with him on the phone and I
That's just
believe
an
he
art.
sent the code. And this was something that came from the O'Neills once they were ready to move forward with.
Yeah, they went to get their
permitting.
state,
Yeah.
and this guy came and said no. Anyways, if someone would make a motion, I'd appreciate
I'll
that.
make a motion that the O'Neills can go through a second ZBA process with no fee.
Is there a second?
I would second
Thank you. Any other discussion? None being heard, all in favor say aye.
I,
Opposed, that's carried. Okay. Off the list. That probably won't be for another, I don't know if anyone on the board is here now.
Yeah, well, I'll let Jody know right away and she can get with
Okay.
the ZBA to schedule that as soon as possible. It will need to be, you know, realistically at least
I should say,
20
David,
days out.
David just
before
left us
business
here.
is due.
And he can, so, and,
But we'll look to get it scheduled promptly.
okay, thank you.
Yes. And then I don't know if there's any questions on I think you guys just have the zoning administrator as a standing and you put like the logs in your packet, but I'm happy to answer any questions I can or bring those back to the office if you have questions on the zoning administrator
I don't
report.
think we still have those about a couple violations, but, they never tore the house down on Erdman Road yet. But that's the state guy, so I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, and that is something I think the township could look to pursue, since your zoning ordinance does require like approved building permits prior to occupancy. So Jody and I were thinking that we could start with a letter to notify them of this and see if that lights a fire. Unfortunately, in my experience, I don't, and I could be wrong on this, so it should come from the state building inspector, but it's my understanding that the state isn't really going to like litigate with property owners. You know, they'll red tag a building, they won't give certificates of occupancy, but I don't believe that they're gonna actually like take someone to court if they're occupying a structure that's deemed unoccupiable. So that could be.
So they won't do that, but they'll come in and say you gotta move a building back a foot off a property line.
sounds good, sounds about right.
Yeah,
No, it sounds completely asinine. I'm sorry, but okay.
but yeah, we'll start with a letter and then, see where that gets us.
Okay, let's do that, because the
Yeah.
guy said he was gonna take care of it. The homeowner said they were gonna tear it down, but then right after that, then they had the fire going
Right,
in the house, and it's got no building permit, nothing I don't think is the code.
But clearly it's a zoning violation. We could force them to take it down, right?
yeah, because your zoning ordinance requires any like occupied, any dwelling structure to have a certificate of occupancy for,
Why don't we start with that and we'll send them,
Yeah.
have Joey send them.
that sounds good.
Okay,
Any other questions on that, or should we move to countywide ORV ordinance?
ORV ordinance, go ahead.
So the county is looking to implement a ORV ordinance. You guys would have previously received certified mailing for that. Although after that went out and it went to county board, it was realized there was some minor revisions to the ordinance before it became effective. So you will receive that notification. Once again, I'm gonna put it back through the 45-day notice for a public hearing with the county board. But with that, the time frame prescribed within the ordinance for yearly map updates will since have lapsed. So I've been wanting to get with the local units that I had maybe some questions on what you have in your current local ordinance and make sure that that is what you'd like included in the countywide ordinance. I had spoken to David about the only road closed in Onekama Township is Portage Point Drive from M22 to Second Street. So essentially the entirety of Portage Point Drive, but you do have the side streets open. So like down on the peninsula, like down Bayview is all open. And then that one you could almost kind of like get around on your ORV, but you're not technically allowed to go out on Portage Point Drive. And then it's like the side streets between Lake Michigan and Portage Lake. So
We need to think, do we wanna keep it closed? The only reason that was
Yeah.
done to begin with was because you couldn't get M22.
right, and you guys do have hurdle. open.
Well, that's the problem, there's a lot of RV traffic that exists now, whether or not, so does it make any sense to even have it closed? No one pays attention.
I was gonna say, cause it's not, if it's truly closed, then there should be some enforcement mechanism.
Well,
However, there isn't, and there's a ton of orders.
so, and that, thank you for that, because that is the purpose of this countywide ORV ordinance. We have the sheriff's office on board that they are going to be willing and able to enforce like one countywide ordinance. And this was a big push that came from the Dirtbirds group, if you're familiar with the kind of newly established ORV group. I believe it's like a Benzie, Manistee County group. They're about 100 strong now, and they're really trying to like educate ORV users and make Manistee safe and friendly and up to the laws with ORV riding. The president of that group has relayed to me that there is kind of that narrative that there is no one enforcing ORV laws in Manistee County. So that's where the sheriff's office has been involved in these conversations and said if we could get a countywide ORV ordinance, and with this one we're leaving control of roads that are open and closed to the local units, that they would be, willing and able to enforce that. Cause right now it's like a mosaic of ordinances that are all really trying to accomplish the same thing, but might have some slight differences. And then you have municipal boundaries for ticketing and whatnot. So, that is the idea with this, to make enforcement proper and have the sheriff's office doing that. Cause I know that historically, it's like, even if people call it, it's something that they've kind of stayed away
Do you
from.
know, Kay, which I don't know, are golf carts, what are they considered?
So golf carts are not explicitly called out in this ordinance. They are regulated by like slow moving vehicle code, I think, and like the villages can have their own golf cart ordinances. So the intent of this ordinance is not to enforce on golf carts. Right, not requiring golf carts to have ORV stickers, but
then you're gonna require like a side by side to have it.
yes, a side by side would have to have it and be only allowed on open roads. And with the definition of ORVs, we're using the definition from the statute, and it could be in some scenarios kind of a judgment call of the officer. Like if you have a souped up ORV that's clear, or a souped up golf cart that's clearly designed and like being utilized in a way that it's more of an ORV, thing, then that could be something that's subject to ORV laws. Let's say, someone's cruising on their golf cart out on Big 4 going 40 miles an hour, and it has an ORV sticker. That could be something that they could look to enforce on, because there are the speed limits and like how you're supposed to
I don't
operate
think
on
we
the
have
road.
that here, but we do have a lot of ORVs to me, and we have those golf carts.
Several accidents on Portage Point Road.
Or golf carts.
By the yacht club with the kids that went to the hospital.
Multiple, so I don't know what.
But the intent is not to enforce on golf carts, leaving that
Yeah,
to
which
villages and their,
is like stupid to
They're
That's because that's the
regulation.
majority of the traffic is golf carts.
here,
yeah.
I think, yeah, Jim.
Isn't Portage Point Drive open now for quads and RVs?
Well, I
It
don't,
is not.
it's not,
According to your
not according to our ordinance, that's why I wanna.
Legally, no, practically, yes.
If I say that again?
Legally, no,
That's correct.
practically, yes.
Practically, yes, because no one enforces it,
Mhm.
so you might as well take it
I would
off.
vote for putting that in, so we.
Well, you might as well take it off, we're not gonna enforce it, or no one's gonna enforce it, I
No,
just remove it. To me, that's my opinion, it's.
Katie, I have a question for you. What is defined as a road in the new ordinance?
So a road is any county primary or local road.
Okay, so unimproved county roads would not qualify, correct? Or
Um,
Unimproved township paper roads would not qualify, correct?
Correct.
So if there was somebody
Want to
with a
ride,
motorcycle riding around on paper roads and
we can,
tearing it up, they could enforce on that?
Yeah, that wouldn't be, that would not be.
The
allowed
motorcycle
for this
count is
ordinance.
not, okay, maybe a go-kart, whatever
Yeah,
it might be.
right.
Or a three-wheeler or.
Yeah, I think that would be enforceable. I mean, they're not even identified on this map as closed roads, because
So,
we only have,
There's some county roads that
Uh-huh.
are on the map that aren't improved necessarily. There's a few of those. I'm just
Uh-huh.
wondering how those are treated.
yeah, I would say that if that is like a public right of way and someone is utilizing it, regardless of it being identified on this map, that would be something that could be enforced on, because it's like, a public local road at that. Well, that is a good question though, because the road isn't developed,
Who's
so
gonna-
if you're
who's gonna-
looking at it.
Cheryl?
Well, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, I would think that they would enforce on that, because I would look at it from the sense like you're not operating on a public open road, so that could be
But what
something.
is, how is, do you have the order? I'm just curious how it's
Yeah.
defined. It says any county, what'd you say, any county?
It means a county primary road or county local road as described in section 5 of 1951 PA 51, like it's a
Oh, okay.
statute for.
So they have the official Act 51 map,
Yes,
but not all of those roads are improved.
right, and
So
that's
I
where I'm
think-
thinking
I
like,
think there needs to be language in there that talks about improved roads.
Oh, just so you don't have somebody,
Right,
you know,
potentially.
okay,
potentially.
I'll take that back and think about that. Yes, thank you.
Okay,
So you can't operate off-road vehicles where there isn't the actual road. It's kind
Well,
of funny.
paper road.
No, I understand what you're saying.
how about an undeveloped paper road?
Well,
Whatever.
I'd be,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'd be curious, because I think that could be a concern for some. I mean, if
Oh,
there's,
yeah.
if there's a road that is not improved, but it's on the map and. people might-
Unless it's surveyed, you won't know where it's at.
Yeah, you don't know where
Yeah.
it's at. There's not a road bed. There's not,
Well, and I will say unimproved paper roads are not on this map.
right, because they're not a county, local or primary.
Right, right.
Okay,
So with that, I would just like to confirm if you guys would like Portage Point Drive opened or closed. And like I said, you will get this correspondence in the coming weeks. For a public hearing, and really for this ordinance, all I need is official action by the board of what roads you want open and closed. And when I send out that notification, once we get through the public hearing and then the board approves that what we have will be final.
So right now, if there was a complaint about an ORV on Portage Point Drive and you call the sheriff, would they do anything about it?
I don't know that the sheriff's office
eventually,
has had the capacity to enforce
right.
local ORV ordinances. So I can't answer that definitively, but it's my understanding that they haven't really had the capacity to like,
But they're gonna suddenly have the capacity to enforce a countywide ordinance?
that is my understanding, that if it's one ordinance, that is what is going to make it feasible for them to do better with
Stop
enforcing
reading between
the
lines.
countywide
And I'll
ORV.
just say it, they're gonna go there after they do the Lake Michigan enforcement. Or trespassing on the beach.
Oh,
So
Yeah,
they'll put that.
right
in line
after.
Right after that.
I think it's a step in the right direction.
well, we've got at least two people in this room that live on Portage Point Drive, and I know how Matt feels about it. How do you feel about it?
I feel we should be able to.
You're okay with that?
Yeah.
Well, how would I access the roads that I can ride on?
We can't.
You can't.
In theory.
In theory, you can't, Dave. That's why I said it's just, it doesn't.
They go by your
You can
house,
trailer it.
down, raft, and then that.
Got across Joseph Road through my property.
Yeah, just do that.
Tell for the deer fence.
Well, I feel like we should probably put it on the list since it's being used anyway.
Yeah, it's.
So if we're gonna write amend or change or even rescind the ordinance, then we have to follow our procedures first. We can't just do it with a motion or anything.
So you can for the countywide ordinance, and it doesn't, you actually don't have to rescind your local ordinance. I know it feels a little bit silly, but the local ordinance can stay in place. This is what will be enforced by the sheriff's office.
Then why would you have an ordinance on the books that's essentially null and void
Yeah, well,
and
and-
isn't going to be
right,
enforced?
and you could
Just get
do
rid of
that,
Correct.
but for the purpose of this ordinance, all I need is a formal motion to update this map in this ordinance.
So your countywide ordinance trumps the.
It doesn't necessarily
It just won't be
trump,
enforced.
right, it can run parallel and it won't be enforced.
Well, I think we should approve what she's asking for, and then we should review the two of them side by side, and if ours doesn't make sense, then
Yeah,
we
right.
should repeal.
Somebody wanna make that motion? Feels. We should.
I'll move we add Portage Point Drive to the county ORV ordinance now, as an approved road.
Okay, is there a second? You're not seconding? There's second, Cindy?
I'll second it.
Okay, discussion, you have something you wanna add? No. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Carried.
Prove to have it or not approved.
No, approved, you can use it. People are using it now every day.
It happens
I
every
go out
day.
there,
Yeah,
someone
we're
in
keeping it
for
closed.
years, it's not, I don't know, it's not gonna change.
I mean, it's a constant up and down, we're all, every matter of vehicles, and it's never been enforced, so.
Okay,
Let's get
next,
The last item I had for you guys, was the zoning service contract, the zoning and code enforcement contract we have with you guys. We still have several months until it's due to expire, but I wanted to get before the local units we have under contract with ample time for any discussion, or changes or whatnot that you guys might want to see to that. If you guys are wanting to sign back on, it would be another 3-year contract and not proposing any increases other than continuing with the 3% inflation. And postage has gone up quite a bit in the past 3 years, so increasing mailing for mass mailings, that's for like the ZBA requests, like whenever we have to do the 300-foot mailings, we don't charge for envelopes for just the day-to-day zoning administration. But raising that from $1 an envelope to $1.25 to account for the increase in postage. And with that, I would take any questions tonight, or if you guys wanted to think about it and have me back. Again, I'm happy to come back. Like I said, this doesn't expire until September 30, so
I
just
think
wanted
we
to
wanted
get.
to have a discussion.
before you.
Lengthy, yeah, so if we could do that, I have a question. So the floodplain thing,
Mhm.
how often does that come in? Does that come into play on everybody that's building? They come in to build a house and they're in the floodplain?
Honestly, it doesn't come up all that frequently. We do get more detailed questions from time to time. There are some like online resources, but I would say quite honestly, it doesn't come up all that frequently.
Could we do that ourselves or not?
The only thing that would probably be like the LiDAR GIS data, having that available. But FEMA does have their maps online as well.
I'm just trying to find a way we can save a little bit of money, and I'm wondering if
Yeah.
that is something we wouldn't have to continue.
I mean, you could contract with like an engineering firm on a as needed basis.
As needed
probably,
basis.
but I don't know how much they would
Mhm.
charge.
It's-
Do you do it for the whole, you don't do it for every unit in the county, do you, or do you do it for everybody but the city?
I mean, we will answer like general questions. This would kind of require us to go in more detail when those questions come up. But I think, generally, we still want to be helpful to people and like point them to the FEMA for maps and let them know that those resources are available.
Is that something that this maybe sound bad, but is it something the township is supposed to provide?
I mean, not necessarily in my opinion, because the building code is really what enforces, like what you can build within a floodplain. I think it's more of like an informational piece, should it come up. But
It comes up
We can
very,
look into it.
Okay.
Yeah. and I will say honestly, like, it's not like we're getting a bunch of requests for like LiDAR maps and data. What FEMA can provide is pretty useful.
it'll be okay now till the water comes back up.
Yeah.
I think some of that has to deal with if it's insurable too.
Mhm.
Well, they have to go by flood insurance, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if you build something and it's in a flood zone, that information is gonna be specific.
I'm just looking, I've had 2
Their
calls in the
homeowners
last
insurance, and if they.
5 years over that.
Right. Yeah, that's understandable.
Questions, anybody want to ask questions here, or we're gonna have this talk?
Well, Katie and I had lunch the other day and I talked to her about a number of questions, concerns, comments. Do you have that list? Do you want to run
I
through what
do.
we talked about? I
Uh-huh.
think that'd be good.
Yeah. So Ed and I had a really nice discussion on the contract and just like he said, things that have come up or that he would like to make sure are continued, that we're continuing to address. So I feel like we've really ramped up on site visits for, permitting, and it's been very helpful having a full-time code enforcement officer who's actually at MSU Extension Zoning Administrator certification, over the next 2 days. So that's been really helpful to have him be able to be in the field more. And we had more recently been doing, like we put across the permits that you must contact a zoning administrator prior to construction beginning, which has always been on the permits, but what Ed and I talked about is not even issuing a permit until we do that initial site visit with everything staked out. So we have already been implementing that since our conversation, and that's something that we can very simply make sure is across the board. Just, you know, we're doing a site inspection with everything marked prior to when they even get their permit. Requiring a survey in all of the residential districts. I think, you know, that is something where the lots just get small. I think there could be very, very, very few instances, like if somebody has an over acre parcel that they're building right in the middle of in the residential, but generally in the platted subdivisions, that's not the case. So requiring a survey regardless. Sometimes people will show us that they have a survey and it's not necessarily like a new site plan on a brand new survey. So that's where I've talked to Jody and Mike. We have to see that they've had a survey, and if it's not like a brand new Spicer survey with everything flagged out, then they also need to show us where their corner markers are on their property to kind of verify that survey, and that even though you might have this survey from 1995, we need to know that you actually know where your corner stakes are as well.
I don't know why anybody would build without a survey. That's not even logical.
Yeah.
Money.
So we talked about leaving the language in the ordinance as is, but just making sure that we are.
Yeah, that it's the understanding that we're requiring surveys more often than not. Making sure that we're conducting at a minimum 3 site visits, but more like a minimum of 5, and you know, doing that initial, several in process, a site visit before like foundations are poured, making sure permits are posted, because I will say that's something that we tend to be lax on, but I think it's a very easy thing for homeowners to do, posting their permits. And then some of the other stuff we talked about is like adding forms to the Google Drive. We did update all the forms to have the Onekama Township logo instead of the county logo. That's been completed. I don't know that they've been uploaded yet, but we will. That was done this week, so we'll get these over to you guys. And then we talked a little bit about how we could better support the Zoning Board of Appeals, and creating like a certified decision document, which I will get together to send to Tom for review, so he is on board with that. And providing some resources for the Zoning Board of Appeals, which I still need to get to. The MML does a pretty good like Zoning Board of Appeals handbook, and I can look for a couple other things or create something for the ZBA. And then a couple other small things like putting Planning Commission, ZBA, like meeting agenda packets onto the Google Drive that we share with you guys over just the action log and the permits. That's another easy fix. And then something that is a project we could definitely work on that might be like an hourly rate thing, but I can't imagine it'd take more than a couple hours, is getting the ordinance into a format like the cities, for example, like hyperlinking the sections and creating that to be a more online user-friendly document for people to look through. So
Glossary, it will be more than 2 hours, but it's worth every penny.
Yeah.
In a format that's more usable.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll definitely get on that. And then I don't know if you wanted to touch on the potential of like further staffing the planning commission.
So, I mean, we don't do level 3 services in here. I'll go back on, townships don't do a lot of things, but the things that they do, they have to do well. They have to do elections. They have to, you know, if you have the fire department, you have to be competent, you know, you have to collect taxes. And we have a strong parks committee, and then we do land use issues. And land use issues are the number one issue that I think this township board deals with. Month over month, year over year. And it's partially a product of the way the flats were laid out. It's partially a product of you have, you know, a very affluent community, and people have the money to afford to challenge things and push the envelope if they feel like they don't want to necessarily comply. I just think that.
Lawyers.
What's that?
Lawyers.
They have lawyers. So I just think that that's something that is, it would be useful perhaps. And I think it might be worth the money, or maybe have some kind of a hybrid level 3 services where we have the professional staff actually go to the meetings. And I'll fall back on the city. At our planning commission meetings, we have staff at every meeting to help shape the conversation, help keep things moving along, answer questions. It just makes the meetings a lot more efficient and effective. And I think we can accomplish more things. We can be more proactive in amending the zoning ordinance if it needs it, if we come up with areas. I know Katie and Jody had a whole list of things that they'd like to see explored, and I think we do need to explore that, but I feel like that would be money well spent if that was something that, you know, we could work out. But I know we haven't had that level 3 services before, so I think it's worth the discussion.
Sure.
And we could be your minute taker and put together the agenda packets. And yeah, have whoever's the zoning administrator and even myself if warranted, attending staffing every planning commission meeting and making sure that it's properly noticed and,
Yeah. And I think having you or Jody at the monthly meeting or every other month is super useful. I think a lot of this stuff can be addressed at the meeting, you know, and it doesn't have to linger for a time being. I do know, Dave, I remember when I was on the planning commission way back when Dave Smelter was the chair and we had Rochelle Rolandhagen as our zoning administrator.
That was, well, yeah, that was 30 years ago.
I know,
No.
but she went to every planning commission
Right.
meeting. She was super helpful. She served as the professional staff to the township's ZBA planning
Correct.
commission. And I think it was very, very effective. And I know we've had a number of zoning administrators since then, and it's probably levels of service have varied, but you know, the thing that's nice about the county is that it's stable. They're not going anywhere. And they can provide that service and start to develop some institutional knowledge, which we have frankly lost because we've had so many zoning administrators. So I think I would be willing, if we can address the issues that we talked about, or if there's any other concerns within the confines of what we're doing, I would be willing to entertain looking at some level of level 3 services if it's what they have or some, you know, variation of, I think would be helpful for us.
Okay.
And I'm always open to, yes, maybe it's like a 2.5 or it's like a modification of the level 3. I'm more than happy if you guys wanted to review like the level of service that's there and create a new level or certain aspects of that appendix, that we can revisit that conversation and talk about what that could look like, for you guys and what the compensation could look like to have staff attending every planning commission meeting.
And with some of the issues that you brought up, we would probably want to somewhat include in the new contract, just to kind of.
Yes, make sure that's
Yeah.
clear.
Yeah,
Yes,
make
of
sure it's
course.
spelled out.
Mhm.
But I appreciated meeting with you, Katie. I think it was super helpful, and I
Yeah,
think,
me too.
to me, getting that, I guess I think the theme of the meeting was we need more of a presence here in the township
Mhm.
from our zoning folks, and I think that can happen. I think that'll be helpful.
Mhm.
Okay. Question?
So I guess what's the path forward on this?
As far as we need to discuss this,
Yeah.
when we're doing our budget anyways, so we can do that, not today necessarily, but the next.
Yeah, and I'm happy to come back. Obviously, I wasn't looking for like any decisions or anything tonight, just really wanted to get before you guys, like I said, with ample time to have these discussions before the contract expires on September 30.
Sure. Okay, yeah, we got plenty of time,
Mhm.
unfortunately. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Get out of here.
It's good to see you guys.
Okay, nice, thanks.
It's nice to leave at 6 o'clock and not have it be dark, too.
Yeah, right? Well, and I honestly really didn't mind sitting through. It was really cool to see like the report on the lake. That was very interesting.
It was interesting. Thanks, Katie.
All right, thank you, guys.
Trails team update.
I wish I had more to report, but we're still, I mean,
We haven't got your line back yet.
no, and part of it is, you know, that they had that whole survey crew out, surveyed all this, and we found a lot of things that, you know, one was the utilities and easements and stuff that were not gonna change. Well, you could change them if you had, let's say, a spare like $1.2 million, which is not happening. So they had to kind of go back to the drawing board because it's not, I mean, it's not feasible. So they had to reschedule some of the survey people, or survey people were already on another job. So it's taken more time than what we would have liked, but nonetheless, we're waiting for that information to come back with hopefully something that is agreeable and fundable. In the meantime, we're gonna try to move on like it's gonna happen. Because if we do get the green light to do this work, we'll be playing backup, if we don't do that. So there's some documents that I'm sure that we're gonna have to have an attorney look at. One would be an intergovernmental agreement with the village. And then, eventually applying for, the grant. So, and we would need a resolution for that. I'm hopeful that we hear something in the next week to 10 days, of what can happen. So they're working on it. We bug them. They have other projects, and there's just we have issues with space. We have issues with, environmental. We have issues with, utility. And utility is not just a pole, it's even the smaller boxes and things. If my memory is correct, I'm gonna say it was exceeded 100 utility points that would have to be relocated if everything was done at the ASHTO standard with the widths and stuff. And that's just, they're talking somewhere in the neighborhood between $10,000 to $12,000 per on average to move one of those utility points. So it's just,
Times how many?
exceeds 100 coming around, all the way around. So between poles and those boxes and different utility structures, I'll call them. So that is a real issue. That's a cost issue that there's not a ability to bear that cost, like they'll tell you, we can build anything, we can do anything, but you gotta have the money to do it. And, we're largely completely relying on grant funding for the project, so.
Well, really, nothing can be, I got a copy of the, intergovernmental agreement.
Yep, and that's something I believe that the attorney's gonna have to look at.
We sent it to Tom just to look at. I called Wayne yesterday
Okay.
to find out the village isn't gonna act on it today either.
Right.
So I obviously I want something to come back from the attorney telling me.
Yeah. Right.
So we don't have any of that.
Correct.
It just got sent to him yesterday.
Yesterday.
So.
Yeah, I'm hopeful, maybe, like I said, in a week to 10 days, we'll hear, cause our engineers is F&V and they have been in communication with, MDOT, and they're trying to come up with something that will work and has to be, and I mean, the other huge percentage has to work. Two, it has to be fundable. And it not just fundable, but the whole grant process is competitive. So you can present something, but if it's the bottom 10% of competitiveness of what they look at,
We're not gonna.
no. So we're getting close, and I hate to just say, we're gonna put everything on hold. We're gonna try to continue to move certain things forward, like intergovernmental agreements, in areas that we can go forward, let's do it. Hopeful optimism, but I wish I had a more definitive answer, but it's gonna largely depend on what they can massage with, MDOT, and is what the end product, is that a fundable solution?
Right, there's a big sense of, Joe, do you wanna?
Right.
A couple of points on the resolution. One is, and it relates to the whole trail project. It keeps getting referred to, and I hate to see it end up in legal documents, as a non-motorized trail. Over 2/3 of the trail is motorized. The entire route that's planned through the village is motorized. You're riding bikes with just a lane. It's not a non-motorized trail. Because you're riding alongside.
A bike is not considered motorized.
What?
A bicycle is not considered motorized.
No, that's not. The bike is traveling on a motorized trail.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Okay, the road M22 through the village is motorized. You have just white lines. It doesn't have a separation, a green area or anything. You are on a motorized path. All the way out M22, if all we do is extend the shoulders, all of that is motorized trail. The only reason I bring this up is, and especially given light of a lot of the discussion, like Katie says, what is the terminology? If this gets developed and it's labeled as a non-motorized trail, legally in the state of Michigan, it's against public act to drive the vehicle on a designated
And what were we calling it? before?
non-motorized.
It's had about 4 names so far.
Okay, I don't know,
Yeah.
engineer.
Well, and that's in, well, with some degree of professionalism that we grant toward our engineers. They are the ones that will determine that. They have to determine that language, and also MDOT, who licenses these things and approves them. They will be the ones that come up with the exact legal terminology for it. We would, it's just like, at the beginning of this, people are running around with their yardsticks trying to measure stuff without the use of a professional survey crew. It's like,
Okay, so,
and they keep asking me about it. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna survey. I don't know.
so back to your point, the point of the intergovernmental agreement calls it that specific thing.
Yes.
Okay, well, we got Tom, I have Tom looking at the language just to do that,
Yeah.
but we'll get an answer back from him. We can change the name of it. I just wanted to make sure it made sense as what we're doing with the village, which we have I think we have 1 or 2 intergovernmental agreements with the village.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, I don't, well.
It's just a feel good
I
document.
just, yeah, I mean, I understand what Joe's saying and I understand the concern, but when I read this, I don't look at this as referring to it as non-motorized. It talks about, we appreciate non-motorized principles and that kind of stuff, but
Well, let him weigh in, and then,
Yeah.
like I said, the village hasn't even looked at it yet, right? They don't even, I don't think.
Oh.
The village will look at it at their work session on March 9th.
Yeah,
And when you have Tom look at it, the research I did on the intergovernmental cooperation resolution, as it's termed. There's no such animal that exists at MDOT. There is a resolution that has to occur, intergovernmental resolution that has to occur between the village and the township on this. And then it goes to an agreement. But in the resolution, in all the MDOT information, it says, while not always explicitly termed an intergovernmental cooperation resolution in the guides, the required resolution, there is a resolution required showing cooperation, must include specific commitments that frequently necessitate intergovernmental cooperation. There were 4 key points. Support and authorization, which this does. Jurisdictional cooperation, which this does. The 2 things that are missing is there's a requirement for financial and maintenance commitment. The resolution must certify that the matching funds of at least 20% are in place, but do not have to be committed in the resolution. And that the agency, whoever the Act 51 agency is, commits to operating and maintaining the project in perpetuity. In other words, there's got to be a maintenance clause there that you have an agreement to maintain this project in perpetuity, and it has to designate an authorized agent. The resolution must identify the person authorized to sign the contractual agreement with MDOT if the funding is awarded. So I'm sure Tom will probably look at that, but those were key things that are missing in it. And the other thing is, it's kind of, and I'll share this in discussions we've had, is it defines that everybody's agreeing to a project. And I gave Jennifer an example. I said, if you and I agree to build a home on that table, and I ask you to sign a letter of cooperation that you'll cooperate to build this, and we'll call it the project, what will be your questions? And without any prompting, Jennifer said, what does the house look like and what does it cost? And that's the piece that we're missing. We're all gonna agree to cooperate on the project, but we don't know what the project is.
No, that's why I sent to Tom. I'm not saying that, the village is gonna have to be the agent.
PA 15.
The 51 agent, yeah, the
Yeah.
village is.
And the village is gonna ask, what is the project? Because in a resolution, then the village as the agency is committed to any overrun costs. I mean, the list goes on a lot longer of what's required in there. And that's why I can tell you the village is gonna look for definition.
Matt, when is the TAP grant? What's the deadline?
We're looking more towards, May and then submittal by June.
Is it a rolling deadline?
No, it's a quarterly.
There's different windows.
Yeah,
So
there's
the half grant's quarterly.
quarter.
Okay.
So we've already pushed it back.
So-
Quarter.
It feels to me like, as much as I hate to say this, I think this whole, we can apply for the TAP grant once we work out the details, right? But until they have a plan, we've had all the public engagement, we have better cost estimates. I think it's premature to file a TAP grant. And I also think it's premature, very premature to file any kind of a trust fund or a community foundation grant. It feels like a year from now, we'll be ready for that. That's what it feels like.
Well, part of it is that it would feel like that, but part of it is their funding stream is so far out, we're already looking into the 28, 29 year.
Yeah,
Even if it was to be awarded now.
the next two application deadlines are June 17th and October 30th.
It's
Right, but
quarterly,
there's April 1 for the trust fund.
right?
There's no way you can have a competitive trust fund grant April 1 without that
Oh.
work being done.
Yeah, and that's why we're very hopeful that we're gonna hear, and there's a lot of, there's a couple of hinge pins, again. Is this something that's gonna, they're gonna come up with something, and is it something, number one, is the MDOT engineers and the people from Traverse City and the people from Lansing gonna agree, hopefully,
And the people from Onekama.
and the people, yeah, right, and that's,
important.
yeah, right. If it's something that looks acceptable to the community and they agree, then the next step is that thing that we have. Is that a fundable, is that something that the granting agencies will look at favorably? I don't know. So we're still waiting on some of the,
So is there an intention to try to apply for a trust fund grant for April 1? Cause
But
I,
it showed.
yeah,
what's that?
That's what this showed.
Yeah,
That was my
I would
question.
vote no on that, cause I don't
Okay.
think you can have a complete application. I'd have to see it. I mean, that timing doesn't make sense to me.
it's aggressive,
It's not a
yeah,
panel.
right.
It's the fact, it's factual. You
Yeah.
can't, unless you,
Unless we had the thing tomorrow.
exactly, you
Well,
still haven't had the public input or.
No,
cost
unless you had the
estimate
thing
or
tomorrow
anything.
to present to the public, I know.
And we don't, that's what I'm saying, we're hopeful maybe within a week to 10 days we'll have
Yeah.
something, but it may not be a week to 10 days, it could be longer, I don't know.
But the good.
Yeah, yeah.
That's actually probably a good thing, because if you have it, because this grant, as I understood it, was supposed to get it to the point where you could apply for a TAP grant.
Correct.
Okay, well, let's say that doesn't happen until
It's like
June.
30% engineering, yeah.
Let's say that doesn't happen until June. You've got all that stuff, you've got public input, you've got, the cost estimates, you've
Right.
got a competitive TAP grant application, you've addressed the village issues, you've done all that.
Right,
Then, and you know that, yeah, with the right pieces together, we can fund this, right? If it's not fundable, then, but if it is, but then that gives you time to say, okay, look, we've applied for this TAMP grant, we've talked with the community foundation, here trust fund is the thing, but the trust fund also requires that you have your financing sources lined up and locked in.
this is
So
true.
I don't think there's any way you can do it in April. It just isn't, it's not. doable.
Until we get the thing, we can't go anywhere anyways.
Can I offer a potentially opposing viewpoint?
Sure.
One of the things that I want to talk about with respect to budget is, that same April 1st deadline, with respect to a Glen Park, trust fund grant. In talking to Jeremy, about these two grants. She and I had the same discussion that Matt and Rick and I had, you just brought up, that the timing is very aggressive for the trails team. But she's not opposed to it being submitted at this point, with the full recognition that all these other things have to happen in the meantime, and in the event that it would all align, and that you could get commitments for all of the other funding, which you must show them on October first.
Right.
Then at least it would be in for them to consider.
Right.
If you don't, it won't be in for them to consider. Again, I think it's highly unlikely that the trails can be ready, but that's just my opinion. I'm not on the team.
Right.
Maybe it gets lucky. And if it's applied for,
Yeah.
then you're there.
And that's the thing, they're not telling us, no, don't do it. So, I mean, we're trying, but it's not
How strong is
it's
the,
not my decision to make. I mean, it's.
but how strong is the application gonna be?
Well, and part of that is what the end result on our application, what we're hoping to have in the next week to 10 days. That might determine this, it will determine the strength of the application. So, their funds they weigh certain things higher.
Sure, they got a whole story.
Right, and so as you stray from those higher standards or things that they like to see, and they're funding those on a larger basis, as you stray farther and farther, you go farther to the bottom of the pile. And I don't know, I mean, I can't say, but some of the things that we're gonna be forced to accept, just based on our environment, our utilities, or the road, how it's gonna form around the lake and the constrictions. Some of those are forcing us to vary away from those, which they recognize. And they'll say, okay, but to what extent, I don't know yet. And so I'm very hopeful we'll hear something. And then we would have could have a trail team meeting and talk about it, but really, I've said it in a couple meetings. I think I was quoted in the paper not too long ago, and my thing that I keep saying is, hey, the speed, we gotta get this right. The speed in which we accomplish it is second. So it's been going on for 2 years.
So is Rick writing the grant?
We've been, we're working on it, and F&B is helping us.
On the TAP grant?
Yeah.
Okay, who is intended to write the trust fund?
Rick, the telephone trust.
Okay, that's what I was talking about,
Oh,
because that's got an
sorry.
earlier deadline.
Yeah.
One more time.
So the resolution is not gonna get acted on till March,
Yeah. For the
Correct.
village, correct.
okay, which you need for the camp grant, you need for the trust fund grant.
Correct.
What's that?
That resolution is for MDOT.
Well, right here, there's two resolutions, an intergovernmental and a trust fund resolution.
Trust fund is separate from the intergovernmental.
Yeah,
I understand, but on, what we have tonight is those two resolutions. And those,
but those
We're
are the
having
ones,
discussion on them, not a plan of action on them.
that's my point.
right,
So there either has to be a special meeting or it's not gonna get approved till March. And if it doesn't get approved till March, it's gonna be March 18th. And so that's where my question was going.
it's gonna be
I
too
think
late, yeah.
some of the questions that like Ed's posing, you're saying you're gonna have answers to,
Right,
you would have them potentially by March 18th for us to approve it, but then I'm sitting there saying, so that's gonna give you 13 days to get the grant done. That's why I was curious who was writing it.
yeah.
We can have a special meeting.
Well, that was the question I would pose is,
I don't.
can you begin writing the grant without that?
Somebody, that's why I said,
Yeah.
just writing the grant.
Well, I would guess you probably could.
Yeah,
Right, so
you can,
with respect to the Glenn thing, I was gonna ask for some direction tonight, because I intend to begin doing that, knowing that you can act on it tonight, or you can act on it next month. You don't need to act on either of them until
Right.
next month.
Yeah.
But I think that depending upon your inclination to support either or both, if you support the Glenn, then I'm gonna move forward on working on the
Because
application.
you got two things, the trail team doesn't have. One, you have a grant writer, right, who's done these and knows, and two, you've got all the plans that we had done before.
Oh, it's done.
Yeah.
It's just updating. It's much, much simpler than what they have to go through. Absolutely.
Dave,
Yeah, Joe.
one comment, cause I've got to head for a budget meeting. On the TAP grant application, the ASHTO standards are not flexible. Cause if on the first page of the TAP grant guide, it states, if the proposed project is a competitive concept, the documentations needs to be submitted to demonstrate the proposed project can be designed and constructed in accordance with current ASHTO and MDOT guidelines and parameters with no expectation of design exceptions or waivers. You know, and that's been confusing because in the trail team, on one hand, we heard from the engineer, you were at it. He spent over an hour stating you have to adhere to the ASHTO standards.
But now everything we're working on is totally different based on what
Yeah,
MDOT said.
but in the TAP grant application,
Well, I don't know,
one,
but I understand that, but. Okay. We'll see
Right.
if that falls through, you know.
And those are the discussions from, there's a group in Traverse City, and then there's some in Lansing, and though they both have to kind of agree on what.
They have to agree on the project.
Yeah, and they have to, one, agree, okay, and then give us some semblance of where we fall in that pile that come in every year. Are we two up from the bottom, or are we closer to the top? Yeah, are we at the bottom?
Yeah,
So it's a flux, and there's a couple, like I say, there's a couple things that are very. I mean, it's the linchpin of the project, there's a couple things, and
hopefully in another week.
it will, yes, and so. Our thought is to continue, like Vic was saying, continue moving forward. Because everything, you know, I tell people we're moving up the speed of government, because just because you get a resolution and you look at it, oh, it's okay. Boilerplate language, we got it from F&B, they've done, I don't know, close to 50 projects. These are some of the things they've used in the past. However, just because it's used in the past, doesn't mean we're not gonna run it by our attorney, the village's gonna run it by their attorney. So all these things are just steps and cogs in the wheel. That as if we continue to move forward, if we wait, then it's definitely too late. But if we can try to continue and write and get pieces of the grant, submit it, even because that Share Mays has told you and like submit it. We're not telling you no. And it potentially, if you meet all these things, you might get the grant. So but again, there's some very specific things that we don't have knowledge yet.
I get it. Vic, do you want a commitment from the board? Is that what you're looking for? What do you have?
Well, we have, two things. One is the, March 1st deadline for Manistee Community Foundation. And that is the one that we brought up at the special meeting a couple of weeks ago. Finishing the walkway, the ADA walkway at Langland. And my current estimate is that's gonna cost about $66,000. We would put in 20 and MCCF would put in the rest. I'm in the process of putting that application in right now, and I'm at the spot where they need a resolution, I think.
Or a motion.
A motion.
Either way.
Yeah, and
Thanks, Joe.
I think Jennifer made the point, though, if you make a motion and I get the minutes, then the minutes really aren't the minutes until they're approved next month, which is after the deadline, so.
But I've never been told that by MCCF.
Foundation's not.
Okay, so as long as there's a motion tonight to move forward with it.
Is somebody making that
And
motion?
that, just for the benefit of the public, what is the project? Just
Can you pull it up? It was on that spreadsheet that I sent you? Can't you just say for Dan's benefit? Oh, no, we might have some other people on.
Well, people might watch the video like next week.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely
You gotta
right.
be able to,
I'll
But I
watch
need to
this.
share my screen, so.
you have to be able to see where, you have to know where Glen Park is.
I know.
So click on,
Yeah.
I don't know where all those creeks are, but.
Yeah, well, I have all their names.
Langland, ADA walkway, top left.
Yeah, just a minute. They got it. My thing is like, I can sleep here.
But that McCormick Creek, that's the one that flows to that little tiny park,
Down here,
right down there,
yeah.
with the rock at it.
I can't believe that it's full of. My guess is there's somebody's washing machine is firing her into it.
Okay, which,
Top left under projects, ADA, Langland ADA walkway. The first two pictures are pictures of what is actually there right now, a rigid walkway with a bench for a wheelchair prior to the descent down to the beach. You can see, no, you can see on the right, and then if you scroll all the way right, you'll see what it looks like from the water. Now scroll back left and then down. I wasn't able, the best I can do is estimate using Onyx Hunt exactly how much more feet that we need. And my guess at this point is that we're gonna need 411 more feet at $157 dollars a foot, or $64,000. The benches are 420, we'll put 4 more. So we will now have a walkway that goes from the concrete slab on the north entrance down to the bottom and connects to the south leg. Because this isn't exactly perpendicular, they're not 90-degree angles, so the 2 corner pieces have to be specially machined to do that. And right now, my best guess is $66,000. Again, I'm using Onyx Hunt, and because of the way the conditions are out there right now with the mountains and everything, I really can't use one of those wheelers.
We can measure on an aerial.
Yeah, well, that's what I've done here.
can I ask a question?
Sure.
So in Manistee, we have the ability to go on level beaches every spring.
Right.
We don't have that ability here.
We don't level the beach, but we open our walkways
But
down.
I'm
to the
talking
water.
about the part that goes parallel to Lake Michigan.
No, these are intended to get all the way to the flat spot. That's why I'm
Okay.
using this outer one. This is obviously an old picture, but the way we figured how much we've bought so far and how far that's gotten us, that's giving us that this is the estimate that we're gonna need to use.
It's surely not gonna install it right along the water's edge.
No, but right now, the water's edge is probably out here. I mean,
All right, so you're confident you can find a flat spot within the stuff we're buying?
we will find a flat spot, and right now our estimate is it's gonna cost to take this many feet to get down there. We're down, if you go up, we're down there now, but who knows what's gonna happen in the spring.
So there may be years you don't use all of it, there may be a point where you can't connect it.
This is a crapshoot, and that's why my dollar figure is a crapshoot. When I walked it last year, you know, 3, 6, 9, I came up with $88,000. So now I'm coming up with 66. I'm a little bit worried about that, but this is the tool that I used. And if we are only able to get, halfway connected, well, we did our best.
Did you measure it on Onyx Hunt? Did you walk it or measure it?
This is called the line tool in Onyx Hunt, so it will give you the measurements. Each one of those red lines has a measurement.
That's fairly accurate.
Yeah, it's pretty, well, I mean, yeah, they use whatever the counting and GIS stuff
So
is.
when we measure stuff, like for assessing on the aerials, GIS.
Yeah.
It's accurate within
I think
6 inches.
I think it's pretty close. The issue is how far does the hill go down before
It
you get
changes
to the flat spot?
Right.
And right now, you can see on the top picture how far you go, the top right picture. Hopefully it's gonna be about that much too, because remember, we're trying to keep it below a 10% grade for ADA as well.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of variables here, but
Rob, can I ride my golf cart out there on it?
no, but if you have an
ORV.
Yeah, get a sticker for your golden hour.
So anyway, so that's project one, that if the board is to support, the last 2 years I've asked for $20,000. You've granted me that, we've gotten, 100 feet. Why not ask for the same 20 and get the whole thing done using MCCF? And they seem to like the project, so maybe we can get that funded and have that ready. And water access was the top thing in the survey, so.
So you think 20 is enough of a match to make that compelling for the community fund?
I presented this to the foundation. They never make any kind of commitments, but they accepted the project, so we'll take a look.
So you need a motion committing $20,000 towards this project, which will be in the fiscal year 28 budget for us. or 27 budget, excuse me.
Yeah, next year's budget. Yeah.
And to authorize him writing a grant, because the minutes have to say that since Vic or whoever's writing it is not the township.
Okay,
Correct.
I'll make a motion.
Excuse me, I'd like that to be my motion, sir.
Please,
I've already got
please.
it.
Thank you.
Typed
Find
out.
over motions.
We'll smooth it out a little bit, but I got it.
Okay, go ahead.
So I would make a motion that we authorize the Parks and Rec Committee to submit an application to the Manistee County Community Foundation as well as the Michigan,
Well, that's a separate one.
separate one, okay. So to complete the ADA walkway loop at Langland Park, joining the north and south entrances, and to add beaches along that section. The overall cost of the project is estimated to be $66,000, with a $46,000 coming from the Manistee County Community Foundation, and a township match of $20,000. Then we'll throw some fluff in there about authorizing the supervisor and or his appointed designee to.
Doesn't even have to sign it. You're doing it electronically. then.
Yeah.
Okay, second,
Support.
this discussion. Anything heard? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, that's carried.
We maybe think about, was it Manistee that did you can get your name on one of the benches, and get donations?
We can do
that
that.
here.
We have for $500, you can do that. And I thought we were gonna get a lot of other people after we made that announcement, but we haven't so far. We have one.
Yeah,
We
but I
have,
think that there would be a good, like a campaign almost to, once this is installed and people say, wow.
yeah.
I think that will be a trigger to get.
Well,
The
we're-
benches,
we're-
the benches are they wood or?
They're
same
all
material.
that same material.
Okay. Can you carve your name into the bench without having?
We do a plaque.
I just wondered. That's
Scrape it on the jackknife.
Just wondered if that's.
I'm gonna carve your name. into
Yeah.
the thing.
If we start seeing Dan on every bench, we'll know.
Mike was here.
We do the same type of program, and we ran out of spots.
You
for
did?
benches.
Really?
Steve, so we started.
That's why I'm saying it was very successful.
Started doing Adirondack chairs.
Yep. Oh, yeah, that's right.
So, more food for thought.
Okay,
Yep.
We can put it on our new Pierpont Park. Oh, wait, we
Oh,
don't
you
have
don't
that.
have that.
Okay,
We can still put them there.
second question for the board is, with the April 1st deadline, for the DNR trust fund grant, we would like to submit or resubmit an updated, grant request for the ADA walkway that's pictured, up on the screen there. That gets it ADA up to the springs, refurbishes the springs, the bridges, et cetera. And the complete project, I've got the details on, but that gives you some idea. This bid was done in 2020. The work that was done by the then chairman, senior moment,
Rich Lipinski.
Lipinski, he did an incredible amount of work. Jennifer and I gave access to a gentleman that is a grant writer from up in Traverse City, and he took a look at it and agreed that well within the hours that I have in the budget for professional services, he can completely redo this and have it submitted by that time. We wondered whether there was any hope we could get the passport grant. Have anything's changed? And the one thing that we know has changed is they use something now called ALICE as a method of determining the community's wealth. And that's different than it was back then. And we might go pick up some points there. But the problem is that the passport grant has a limit of $150,000. And that project at that point was 265. And using just inflation that came from AI, we're now up to 389, I believe it is. So that passport grant is going to leave a big gap. And in talking to Sherry, she said in this case as well, submit both. do the passport, or do the, trust fund grant, which can get you up to $400,000. Do the, trust fund, 400,000, passport, 150. You'll know in September whether, the passport is gonna be approved, at which point you need to make the decision, do you take it? Or do you roll the dice on getting the trust fund? But do them both.
But worst case, even if the passport would allow a certain portion of that project to be completed, if that was
Well, I'm not sure that you can do a portion of the project if they, you have to do the project as defined.
oh, okay, you couldn't say it's a phase one or.
No, I don't think so. You have to, you're making a proposal of this
Okay.
project and you're going in knowing their cap is 150. If they give you 150, you can't say, well, I'll do a little bit less now.
So if you got the passport grant, didn't get the trust fund, you'd be on the hook for 70 more, so it'd be like a 230, 240 commitment. Of
Yeah.
finding fund.
Yeah, if you can go to, there's another, just go up to the top and click, that right on the right, yeah, 5-year, no, go up right there, the 5-year, in the center, that one right there, 5-year budget proposal. On the top left, I believe is the Langland one, top right is Glenn. Right now I've got it at 388 with trust fund at 250, Manistee at 64. And us at 75. 75 is what we did last time. Manistee put in 40. When I talked to the MCCF about this, they said that we don't want to talk about that right now. Please get your March 1st submission in. When the March 1st submission is, let's meet again and we'll talk about this one. So I think we're sort of up in the air on what their match could be. I know that they've had some discussions with these guys about a potential match, so maybe I can get something from them. I'm trying to figure out exactly what I would.
Will they do both?
Well, what would you ask for in the trust fund grant? When's the passport grant due?
Both are doing the same day.
Okay, so this is the passport funding formula, right?
This one, no,
Oh, it's trust fund.
I'm assuming trust fund on this one.
So when you write the passport grant and they can only give you 150, how are you filling the extra 100?
I'm figuring that out yet.
Okay.
I'm gonna figure that out after I get the MCCF one done and then sit down and talk about this. But I guess the question I have for the board is if you guys feel favorable about moving forward on Glenn, then as soon as I'm done with MCCF, I'm gonna get MCCF Langland. I'm gonna get with them and say, what's our options on trust fund and the other, and see if I can't get a feel for it.
And as I recall from our conversation that we had with Shara May, did she not basically say, yeah, you submit them both, and at some point, we'll sort of gently ask you which grant you would like to discontinue, which is you're on the path to the one that they
Right,
are likely to.
or she said, we'll give you the award. And then you need to decide, are you gonna roll the dice or are you gonna take the 150?
Correct.
And she said, up to this point, most everybody takes the 150. But, that's just what people have done to this point. You have to make that decision.
And that was part of my question before. I guess maybe it's a phase, but I know, the Madison Community Foundation, just with dealing with the Trails Project, them knowing that if it potentially could be a multi-year project, then if it's a multi-year project, they could make, a match in, whatever, pick a year, and then the following year, do another match.
But you have a certain amount of time to spend the trust fund dollars, so you might be able to make that work.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Even if they say, okay, here's your, the passport grant, you're like, ugh, what do we do? I think that would be a great time to have a good, solid conversation with the community foundation, that their feelings about a multi, if that could be spread over a couple of years. You're talking, if they're matched, let's say, was 40,000, maybe you get 40 and 40, and that's a difference maker in that application.
Yeah, and if you could blow that up a whole lot, I think, but really, just at the bottom right, use that blow up. The other thing that this is I was including, the Trails Project grant in here as well.
Yeah.
And what if we won both of those and they came to us and said, it's October 1st, show us the money. We have to show them the money for the Glen project, which is not small. I mean, at this point, I'm asking $75,000, but holy cow, if we got them both, then is the township really ready to stand up to, you know, $375,000 or whatever, at which point the board's gotta decide, well, we'll do this one, we'll do that one. And then what Jeremy said is, if you don't have the funding, or whichever one you don't have the funding, we push it back to the next year. That's not an indication you didn't like it, and that's not an indication we'll pass it.
Is there a downside?
No, I think we should apply for all the stuff for Grand Park and then see where.
There's no downside.
Well,
That's
I will say this. So the city got awarded the grant for renovate the North Riverwalk Veterans Park area. And that was like our third attempt at the trust fund.
Oh,
So we applied like 3 times and city can attest to this. What made the difference on both the man-made lake grant and for this one, the third time around is we actually went down, the group went down to Lansing and presented and showed the passion. They put a face to the name and, you know, I actually think
Maybe
this
different.
last one that we got, we might not even have scored, but they always have a few discretionary dollars and the city got it.
Yeah,
So it's good to be there and present if you can.
well,
Except for with man-made, we were invited to present. I mean, were you allowed to just present if you wanted?
Yeah, you can come down
Oh,
and
they made
schedule
me
it, so,
that.
yeah.
well, Jeremy has been sensationally supportive. And I really feel like developing that relationship is a good thing. And then in the event we had an opportunity, boy, if I could get Brian Allen, get Tyler, that, you know, the people that really know that park and really can talk it up, or a historical person about, you know, we could sell that.
I'm putting the cart way ahead of the horse, but assuming we get the grant and we build out this new beautiful Glen Park, I wanna make darn sure this board is committing to maintaining the assets. We have to maintain our assets. That's, at some point they end their useful life and you have to replace them, but we have to. And we've been pretty good with that recently.
I would say with the exception of Glenn.
Yeah.
I mean, Glenn has been, I mean,
Neglected.
Well, it was always too much money. It was too much.
we take the trees that fall over the edge, but I mean, I have a 35-year-old son who's ambulatory, but you know, he's not ambulatory like we are. I didn't see any part of Glen Park as I was watching where he was walking for fear he's gonna fall. So I've never been back with my family. I really think that's a great park. Also, it's not yet infested with invasive species. I mean, there's a lot of good about that park, and I think
The gem of all the
support that,
parks.
so. Anyway, so,
Somebody want to make a motion?
yeah, and honestly, I'm not 100% sure of exactly what has to happen. As soon as we're done here, if you guys are supportive of me moving forward, I need to get on the phone with our grant writer and say, go for it, and you tell me what you need
We
me to
could do
get
that in
done.
March, right?
I'm sorry?
We could do that in March at a special meeting. I think there's some kind of isn't there a standard resolution form for a trust fund submittal?
I think there is.
Well, tomorrow I'm gonna call him, I'm gonna say, get started, and you tell me what I need from the board, and you do it sooner rather than later.
Okay, so do you want a motion or just, yes, go ahead?
Well, I mean, whatever you guys think, a motion would make it a little bit more formal.
We'll probably still have to do a resolution.
Yeah,
Mhm. Ed, what would you like that
I
motion to
thought
be?
that Madam Clerk would have one prepared.
I took one. I'm offering you one.
I'll make a motion that we have Vic work with his grant writer to start preparing a trust fund grant for the Glen Park renovation as laid out here. And that we potentially commit up to 75,000 as part of the next budget and through the formal resolution.
You need him, okay, second?
I just have a question.
No, second first.
Oh, sorry.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Now discussion. Go ahead.
The other trust fund grant for the Trails Project, would that grant writer be someone we could lean on for help with with that trust fund grant?
well, I don't know how many hours he's got left, but I mean, I'll ask him. The problem is that this grant is essentially done. It was done by the city.
He's just got to update it. It's not gonna be his.
Right.
Oh, okay.
He's not right.
Because
What's that?
I would absolutely encourage the Trails team to engage with the grant writer rather than having all that burden on the team to write the grant. We need somebody who's done this before, be successful, I think.
Could we use them like as a consultant?
I have an idea. What about the gentleman that is at Manistee County who helped us with the grant last year at North Point, and who works for them and said, I'm here to help, and he gave us
Bill
that
Kenneth.
okay, what is his name?
Bill Kennis?
Bill Kennedy, he's their grant writer, and the county has never committed to let us using him for free, although he did help us for free last time, but we can pay him. I mean, we have budget for him, so maybe it's worth reaching out to him and say, what would you charge to do a trust fund grant?
Aren't we paying your grant writer?
We are.
So we can put money in the 27 budget for the grant for the trails team and use whoever at that point. I mean,
Yeah.
if your guy is effective and you have a relationship with them, but Bill's might be really good too. I don't.
Right, no, I'm only talking about who's got the bandwidth to get it done between now and April first, and our guy said, I can do yours because I'm essentially just doing a redo.
I didn't think April 1 was on the table for that grant, but if it is,
It
that
isn't.
might be a problem.
Oh, okay, so that's a question to you. Are you still wanting, because that resolution had nothing to do with the Trails grant. Are you still wanting to move forward with the Trails grant on the April first? Because that's something the board needs to decide.
We gotta vote on this other thing first.
Yeah,
Oh, I veered
Too
off
many
my
things on the
discussion.
road,
Right.
on the table here.
Well,
I was just, a light bulb just went on. and
Shut it off.
Yeah,
Okay, all those in favor,
throw
say
a
aye.
blanket over it.
I,
Opposed? Did you vote opposed?
No,
Oh, thank you. I didn't.
no, no.
Now, do you need a motion for the other, to apply for the other one?
Well, I'm not Trails, that's, you know.
No, no,
No,
not
passport.
Oh. It probably wouldn't hurt, probably wouldn't hurt.
So I'll make that same motion, but for the passport grant, however, there's still going to be $100,000 that's unaccounted for, but at least you can apply. I don't know how you're gonna fill that gap. You have to show the complete sources and uses.
I'll come back to the board.
Well,
I have a question. I have a question after this discussion about.
in the application process?
Is there a second?
So we'll submit the application, because he won't have time to get back in front of us.
Okay.
Is there a second? Okay, second discussion. Do you have anything else?
I
No.
mean, if that application requires a balanced sources and uses, somebody's gonna have to, I mean, you can't put the township on the hook for 175 unless I make that in the motion, so I don't know what we wanna do there.
Yeah, I mean, can we say something like,
Not to exceed.
No, remember. Didn't we have some verbiage on the Pierpont Park verbiage? About committing this much from township resources
Other
and
sources of.
guaranteeing funding from non.
Yeah, when we had somebody who was willing to step in and do that. We don't have that here.
well,
Rich,
But-
where are you? You left.
but at this point. We're hoping to get more from MCCF. How can we state it that, we're seeking, but limiting our exposure to a certain dollar amount?
Well, I mean, maybe if the board is amenable, we would, if we got the passport grant, we'd eat half and MCCF could eat half, maybe, I don't know. I don't know if MCCF would fund that much. But then I would have to, we'd have to amend the second motion to say 125,000. Then you'd have to show 114,000 from MCCF at that point. Or other funding sources, other grants. I mean, I don't know what they want in that application though.
Yeah, see, I don't
Is it
either.
worthwhile to get a little bit more information than call special meeting? If we
Yeah,
need to do
well,
this?
so that was my question.
Not if
Remember,
it's due March 1st.
no, MCCF.
April 1st.
This is April 1st.
No, I'm talking about passport. That's April 1 too.
Correct.
Yes,
Oh, okay, so.
Yeah.
All those grants are April Fool's Day.
yes, so we can make some sort of motion that allows me to move forward with it, and then I'll get with him tomorrow, tell me what I need the board to do, and then I'll either have a special meeting or, we'll deal with it on the next one. If he's agreeable, he'll still have time to submit.
That works. What Bick said.
We'll work on that.
So do we still have a motion?
You have a motion.
Was seconded, yeah?
Cindy seconded
Okay.
the discussion.
I didn't hear you.
Yeah, she did.
It was a nonverbal.
It was a verbal. I'm kidding.
You wanna read it back?
Nope.
I think it's okay. He's gonna apply for the passport grant
correct.
And using the numbers we've had here and then come back if we need to tweak the number.
Yeah, that's a hell of a motion. Maybe you didn't second that.
Didn't hear it.
It's very precise.
We done discussing?
I don't have a,
You can put me.
We,
thank you. This is what goes to court, ma'am. Can't defend,
I
in
asked
court.
3 times, and she gave me the look, but.
Oh, that'll go
Sometimes you
well
can
with the judge.
interpret that to
You
mean
know,
yes or
Judge,
no.
sometimes when a woman gives
She
you
did
the
it
look,
earlier in the meeting.
what she wants, so
This is on. Is anybody online yet?
doesn't matter. It's all on the internet now.
I hope they are, or they can hear all the stuff we're doing, wondering what we're here doing so late. Okay, any other discussion? None being heard, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that's carried. Are you done?
I'm done.
Thank you. Planning Commission meeting, ZBA.
We've had no planning commission meeting.
Assessor, board review, March board review is, someone took my calendar down.
Yeah, someone said they didn't need it. Nobody looks at it. So your organizational meeting is March 3rd.
Yes.
And then no appeals are heard at that time.
That's
And then
correct.
you have a meeting on March 11th from 3 to 9, no, 9 AM to 3 PM. And then March 12th from 3 PM to 9 PM. No dinner or lunch breaks have been scheduled.
Whoa. No, you eat on the go here.
Eat on the go, written, what's the right word there?
Protest outside.
Written, appeals can be received at the clerk's office either by mail or in hand, in person, by March 9th.
Does it say that? She put, okay, so we've always accepted up to if you, okay.
So on the bottom of your tax notices and the assessments is where I got that date from, was March 9th. That's also been on the website now
We
for,
have never turned anyone down if it comes in and they got it, at least before they adjourn.
Okay.
So that's fine. It's all right to have the date, but. Okay, and everyone's happy, I guess. Well, here's what I can tell you. We have had,
who for sure is coming.
we have had.
We've looked at the minutes, the previous minutes. It seems like he shows up at every zoning board of appeals,
Board review.
board of review, sorry, board of review. Correct.
Won't comment on that, and, I won't comment, and, we
So
have
that at
very
least
few,
one.
very few calls for people, for board review. Yeah, questioning their assessments. Now, don't get me wrong, the ones that have called, some of them are a little, I don't know, irate. I've been asked a couple times if I was crazy. Well, I just say, yeah, why? What's wrong? What,
Show them your sales stuff.
There's no adjectives before the word crazy, whether.
no.
Okay.
I'll tell you another story, but you're leaving after the meeting, something happened today. Okay. Zoning administrator done, moving on, board review done. Countywide ORV ones done, MTA principles of governance. Is that something we have to sign and do?
Yeah, so, oh, I left- you
Resolution?
left it on my desk. It's, you apparently have signed them regularly, because there's one
Okay.
hanging in the hallway, and it just says, we agree to be good stewards of the taxpayer.
Money and follow rules of regulation. Do we need a motion? Did I sign
We
it?
need to read it.
No. There's no sense reading.
Nick, do you want to present your budget, or you gotta go?
I'm happy to talk about, no, I don't have to go, I'm happy to talk about that, I mean, that's not my budget, this is just capital
Did
expenditure.
you have, okay, so you're not ready to talk about the rest of the budget then?
I have a few more details to nail down, between now and Wednesday, or Tuesday of next week.
I don't understand that.
I don't remember seeing, well, I didn't. Yeah, didn't want them.
This says our principles of governance, that we, the undersigned, agree to maintain the highest standards and traditions of Michigan townships, that we embrace these principles to guide our stewardship, deliberations, and constituent service as we commit to safeguard our community's health, safety, and general welfare. And then we pledge to many things, insisting on the highest standards of ethical conduct, bring credit, honor, and dignity to our public offices through collegial board deliberations, and diligent appropriate responses.
What'd she say?
Collegial, that's what it says.
Is that what it says?
Yes,
Okay.
actively pursue education and knowledge and embrace best practices. Treat all persons with dignity, respect, and impartiality without prejudice or discrimination. Practice openness and transparency in our decisions and actions. Cooperate in reasonable ways with other governmental entities and consider the impact of our decisions. Communicate to the public township issues, challenges, and successes. Welcome active involvement. Strive for compliance with all state and federal statutory requirements. Refuse to participate in any decisions or activities for personal gain at the expense of the best interest of the township, and further the understanding of obligations and responsibilities of American citizenship, democratic government, and freedom. This is what you're signing if you agree to sign
Are
it.
you making the motion?
Sure.
Was there a second?
Second? I will second.
Thank you.
Wow. We go.
Okay, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, carried. I feel better already. I feel like we've just.
Is that-
Do other
Is
governments,
this a good pen?
state and federal have anything? I mean,
Right.
Yeah.
I was gonna say. I don't believe there's other.
They don't sign that.
Oh, okay, I just was wondering.
Well, they sign it, but
There's an asterisk, several of them by each word. And some, and Brent. So I need to sign it with the blue pen.
You should.
Our FP herbicide application, we just didn't have a motion made, what? Did I do it wrong?
No,
So it was in your packet. I can explain it if you'd like me to.
It's the same thing we have to fill out every year, isn't it?
Well, no, this is,
Oh.
well, we had PLM under a 3-year contract, and then last year is when we started dating the duties, and then because of timing of hiring an advisor, we didn't have time to send an RFP out for applicator services because we would have lost time for submitting for permits.
Right.
This year, we haven't done. So,
Oh, you're sending it out now early to, okay.
and this is for applicator. Now, the only thing with it, I really wanted to send it out tomorrow, but because the way the RFP was done, it also creates the contract itself. Tom Greer's looking at it. So maybe if we could, if you agree with it, have approval subject to him
That's fine.
approving it. And that's
So I didn't ask today when this guy was here, and I didn't want, I would have asked, but we have no problem if the other, same applicator gets the job again this year, right? They did a fine job as
They
an
did a great
applicator, right?
job, and
Okay.
actually a couple members on the committee felt like we didn't even have to do an RFP, let's just
Okay.
do it, but
Okay,
everybody then said, no, let's do an RFP,
Just so
make
she's
sure.
there. Okay, that's fine. Motion, you making that motion?
Yeah,
I'll take it.
what's your motion?
Motion by Cynthia and second by Flash.
to approve
Is that you, Mark, seconded?
RFP, subject to Tom Greer's review,
Review of that.
and to approve, because the bylaws say that invasive species bylaws say that the township board has to also approve the process of the RFP, which I wrote in the memo to you. So it also includes approving the RFP and the process invasive species is using.
Okay, is there, and you already seconded that, right? Even though you hadn't heard it. That was pretty good.
Speed.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye,
Thank you
opposed?
for all your hard
That's
work.
carried. Thank you for all your hard work.
Well, they mentioned multiple times about how the applicator was very
Cindy, did you make that
using
motion?
their efficacy and was being done completely right.
And
Okay.
thank you for all your hard work. That's actually, it's very impressive.
Right. He
Yeah.
is literally, I could feel
Well,
him
the big
tingling.
thing
He
though,
was so excited about that spreadsheet.
seriously, the
That's
big
very
difference is Pfizer's scientific based company. And it has significantly changed the approach.
I was like this guy, what I did like.
He's a scientist.
He made a reference, but he didn't
Senior
bury the old
scientist.
people.
He did what?
He didn't bury the old group.
Right.
Right.
But he referred to it, he was kind of really like, okay, but
Did in a gentle way.
he did it in a gentle way. Yeah, he didn't stomp on it.
That was
I have
set
no
back here in
idea.
that second row.
I have
The
no
water
idea.
scientist.
Oh, he lives on Bayview. Oh, lives halfway on Bayview down there. I'm trying to think about what road end. He's a nice guy. He worked and that's his field.
No kidding.
When he was-
I just didn't recognize him.
When he was talking about how he was chasing down these leaks in Grand Rapids and different rivers,
He
he worked in there, he's got a lot of hobbies.
He was he got cancer last year. He was actually in the sewer project. I talked to him quite a bit because that was his field and he was all for the sewer. And then he got sick and I think he's feeling better, but it's hard to tell. It looks like he's still.
I would like to know who that.
I'll get I'm drawing a blank.
Because Alexis hasn't been coming to our meetings, and so I'm not sure what her status is, but if we needed somebody,
Well, he'd probably like that.
yeah,
Okay.
Are you at your full regiment of members or do you have any for another one?
I,
Wait a minute.
you know, I think we
Wait a
changed the
minute.
language.
Bylaw change.
That's right, we changed. the
Minimum,
language.
no maximum.
Yeah, no maximum, right?
Good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for sure find out.
I'm moving on, noise ordinance. I would like, you wanna talk about, but I would think we should have them all be the same time.
And be the.
Whatever it
earlier
is.
Time.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think I think the whole issue was they didn't like the 1 AM.
Right. I think the other one is 11
I think 11 is fine.
and the short-term
That doesn't mean
ordinance
you
and
can't
then,
be down on the beach having a bonfire, you just don't have to be yelling and.
Right.
Yeah, throwing stuff.
Yeah, that
lighting
change that,
on.
just gives it some, I think, to me, that makes more sense, but I'm gonna go about changing that.
well, if we're gonna amend the ordinance, then there's still, you have to do 15 days notice and it has to be before the board and blah, 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 and you have to publish it in the newspaper, et cetera. So we can do that. And then the question becomes, if you're gonna match it to 11, and I do not have the noise ordinance committed to memory yet, were there carve out days for like Onekama days and 4th of July, where it can go a little later?
Why don't we
Research it a little bit more for next month, yeah. Bring it
Or
up
even April, that's fine.
Well, just as long as it's before summer, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great.
You know,
Is everyone kind of favor?
And I would suggest, I don't know when the last time that's been looked at by an attorney, but often noise ordinances, when they were written way back in the day, are unenforceable. So if we're gonna go through the effort to look at the ordinance and make changes, we ought to have Tom review it and.
So fortunately, Mandy and I attended a little seminar
There you go.
downstate. One of the topics was noise ordinances.
We can give the deputy township supervisor a decibel meter and he can go around and enforce.
Oh, he'd like that.
Yes, he would.
Well, judging by some of the language that was in the ordinance about the hooting and,
Yeah, it needs to be.
The hooting and hollering?
I'm guessing that was from
So do you wanna,
80 years ago.
Okay, so we're in favor of doing that? Okay, let's just put it on, okay.
Right.
Now we have this big thing of budget discussion.
Do you want to do the regular and customary bills to be paid since that was passed?
I move we pay the regular and customary.
I
bills.
second it.
All those in favor say aye. Correspondence, now we're back to
Now,
budget discussion.
Okay. So I sent out some items last, well, it's been probably a month. Well,
Yes, close.
I haven't gotten anything from the fire department. I haven't gotten input from anybody, so we just need to make sure, I mean, there's a couple little changes that I saw that probably need to be made. I talked to Jennifer about just some coding issues on where we wanna actually budget for things and make sure the invoices line up with that, but, if people have had a chance to look at that and look at the footnotes and, I have like 2 or 3 things that obviously we need to talk through the parks budget, cause he's gonna have some stuff and that's presented, but we've talked about a storage building, and that's not addressed in here. We've talked about,
Can I ask, do we know what fund balance we have right now?
yeah, it's,
I mean, you're talking about a trails project, you talk about Glen Park, those 2 items alone could cost or be as much as how much, roughly?
You can pull up my spreadsheet.
550,000.
no.
No.
no, because there was 3 something, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean.
Well, your count, what if you only get the 1 grant?
Well, okay,
And then MTF only gives you
if
50.
you're talking about trails, you have to understand, right now, you've asked for 200 match, but there's still 200 unfunded, so they're trying to find that somewhere else.
I know, but they have-
Right now, you're at
looking under
200.
You're 400.
Better budget for 4.
You're looking for 4 because they don't have the other 200. Okay, so I'm saying 4 and $1.50 for passport, you're still owe 200, that's actually 6. Less MCF.
Yeah, but I'm gonna have a really good idea for you after I talk to, MCCF. After.
I know. I'm just saying so where are we?
So, well, this shows.
Undesignated.
This shows that we're at 1 million, but remember, all of our revenue hasn't come in yet, so. You know, it'll be north of 1 million.
Okay,
I think probably closer to,
6, 1,000,001.
I would say closer to 1.2. You know, and also remember the fire fund's gotta pay back that $250,000.
So if they sell the truck, we get $1.50, we're down to 100 for
And
them
they'll pay that back over time.
over time, and then they wanna buy that other thing so we're gonna be up to another, that's 50 grand.
Yeah. And we, you know, I can have some more detailed information for that
Okay.
at our next meeting if we wanted, but I'm not sure, you know, our operation's pretty simple. Things really don't change much from year to year. But I think the building is something, I think the parks capital projects are obviously important. I just heard they're putting in a pickleball court, so we probably don't need to worry about that if that's gonna be open to the public.
There'll be 2, yeah, that's why it completely came off our radar.
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, that's.
Who's putting those in the school?
Cool.
Taking out the tennis courts?
No.
Up girls softball diamond on the corner there.
And so far,
Farming Road.
we've had some semblance of.
Those softball always the short end of the stick.
No, they're not getting moved, they're getting the
Well,
restroom.
but remember, the workout room was supposed to be free and open to the community too, and now you gotta pay 100. Which still frosts me, because they sold the stupid bond issue. That was a big
Yeah.
piece of that.
Correct.
It's $100?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think originally started, it was free, but then it was like $30 or $36 for a family.
Hard thing to get in.
I can understand paying for the card.
The health connection thing is free, but it must be because I'm over whatever age.
You might have silver
Oh.
sneakers or whatever it's called now.
Huh?
Your house. You might have silver sneakers or whatever they call it with insurances where you get that stuff free.
Oh,
Oh,
did not know that.
but isn't Silver Sneakers like a Blue Cross thing, or is it a general term for
Yeah, and I think it's a priority health, except for priority health is used. in
But they're going there.
the active geriatrics?
A lot of the Medicare, not Medicaid, but the,
Medicare.
yeah, and what's the other one that? Plan Cs
Oh,
of them,
After my first day there, I found there's a lot of muscles that I didn't know I had.
yeah,
I found them, but this morning.
yeah.
Yeah, they showed up.
be a killer on the pickleball court here pretty soon.
And I know that Vic showed it in his, but I think last month I talked about the matching grant for the DNR launch.
Right,
Right, how
Oh,
much
yeah.
is that?
That was
I'm gonna
20?
say 10.
10.
Yeah,
That's too bad that they're.
they're all just a pain.
There's only 10,000 for that?
Well,
So
the
we're
our
gonna
match.
do like, it's a little bit over 10%.
And how much is the community foundation likely to put in?
Well, I'm gonna say up to 90, just because, well, that's where I said, I don't know, if asphalt costs went up, and that's where Dave said he didn't think so. So it might not be that high.
Scott Brown said.
I
there's
just
asphalt
can't,
in
I
the-
can't get it bid, because I don't have a drawing to have.
We know how many square feet.
Well, we're assuming it's around $100,000 project.
That's what I have in my spreadsheet, I included that in my spreadsheet.
Okay.
The project was less than that when Jim first started talking about it, but I just,
It was like 65, 70 grand,
I wanna say it was 70 or 80,
or maybe
but I'm just
75.
adding like another 10 in my head.
That's fine.
And I have a question.
Yeah.
Have we ever done something like taking a look at our CapEx for, parks? And what is that as a percentage of our yearly inflow? What is that as a percentage of our net cash? I mean, essentially, we've got cash and savings and some small,
We did the outlay
liabilities
per
against
year,
that. So there's a net cash.
per year.
No, well, what is our net cash figure
Wow.
and what's our spending?
You wanna know what we
against that?
take in from
And then
tax?
secondly, what do we take in each
You
year?
wanna know what we take in from taxes only or?
No,
from
no,
all
because
of it?
for the last year, we've taken in 60 grand in interest income too.
Well, Vic, I mean, yes, we look at all of that, but here's the takeaway. Normally, you need like say a 30% fund balance of your typical operating expenses. We're so far in excess of that right
We're
now.
way out of whack.
If we're not using these assets or setting them aside for restricted funds for things, then we're not.
Doing our
Why do we
job.
have the money sitting
Yeah.
around? So we're not to the point where I think we need to be obsessing about that. We have plenty of fund balance to fund some of these high priority capital projects if the board agrees on it.
Well,
When we start to draw that down a little more, then I think, yeah, we need to maybe. look
then
at
it
that
gets,
a little
then it
bit.
gets tight.
So that's the reason for my
Right.
question, because when I put that 5-year plan in front of me, number one, there's 3 years in a row that we get trust fund grants. Well, that ain't gonna happen.
Right.
But
Yeah.
we have a lot out there, and I'm just looking for some sort of boundary. That's a lot of money for me to put out there, but yet again, I mean, Glen Park's something we should do.
We have to put it out there so we can plan and think about it, and if the board decides, you know what, there's a project out there 3 years that we think is really good, we can restrict the dollars today.
Yeah.
And say, we're gonna set these aside until this project becomes.
What is
whatever.
our millage? 220 we get just the millage for the township operator. Are we a mill and a half or are we or a mill?
No, we're, hang on,
Operating, a mill and a half? Or 1.47926 or whatever it is.
so we've got. So I use 1.4982 is but I don't know if we'll have a Headley rollback. I mean, it's
We
possible.
probably will, but,
So that could impact.
It's pretty
that.
close.
Right, so it's basically a 1.5, 1 and 1.
and our taxable is probably this coming
Taxable
year
value is gonna be,
to something.
2,233,100,000.
So 233,000 plus half of that,
Almost $350,000 in revenue
that revenue,
for the general, fund.
not counting
Plus we get some other revenue. on it.
state.
We're off the speaker, right?
No.
We're off the, oh, okay.
No, we're on.
So, well,
Was it the road commission meeting? I'm sorry. 300, and that's not total revenue, don't get me wrong, but that's how much, I'm trying to answer, what does the township take in millage money? It's like
But,
350.
so we get, $349,000 in tax revenue plus delinquent, so we'll call it 360. But I've got a $657,000 revenue budget, so we get almost 100,000 in revenue sharing, we get property tax administration fees of almost 95,000, you know, we have fees for permits. We have 30 grand in interest income, we have, you know, some things like that, so it's.
well, the reason I asked the question is because I generally am trying to be as stingy as I possibly can, especially on the operating budget. But you brought up building, and building is something like, we're storing all that rigid walkway back there. Well, if we get this next grant, we've got 3 times as much of that. But the other question is I'm having a hard time getting a bid for the weekly cleaning of the sand because the vendor has to go out and buy equipment to do that. We could buy the equipment and do that, but the current employees that I have are not capable of handling that equipment. So, I mean, there's a lot of discussions that we can go forward on, but getting a building would be, we kind of take us in a different direction. Number one, for storage of that. Number two, we could maybe not go to a vendor to do that and use our own equipment. That's gonna cost us $2,000-3,000 plus, you know, different kind of employee.
Yeah, I think at some point we cross the threshold where we're a little township that doesn't have employee and
Yeah.
higher maintenance needs. And at some point it makes sense to hire a capable employee to do some of this stuff. I don't know if we're there yet, I'm just saying, but now that we don't,
Like an
the
actual,
recycling location is kind of taken care of, in theory, that's gonna go to.
In theory,
And we don't have, you know, we're not looking to find a place to put a building with a pickleball court, because they're gonna have them. Do we have room at our cemetery to put up a storage building?
No, we do
Can
not.
that? No?
I don't want a storage building at the cemetery.
you can have it on the other property, next to the cemetery, yeah.
The 10 acres that we just had surveyed, or a different chunk by the cemetery?
No.
I don't know what's in reserve and what's not, but.
So I would not be happy to see a storage building at Bertelson. I have some ideas, which I don't know if they can come to fruition, but I don't wanna see that there. And I do understand we have that property on the west side, adjacent to the village cemetery
That's
too, correct?
Speak, that's the piece I'm talking about.
That
That's about
would be
40
fine.
acres.
Yeah, that's what I'm
That's,
saying.
30 acres.
that's where they're thinking about,
That piece. right
perhaps
there.
adding the
That could be, that's a disc golf.
disc golf or something.
Trail or something.
Right, I'm just saying, it's, you know, we don't have to put anything in the budget, we can talk about it, if we wanna amend the budget later, we can, but we don't have a plan, it's not been fleshed out, I think we need to, at some point, decide whether we need to do something. Or-
You need to have a building, that is
I
a
mean,
thing that,
And, you know, the other thing that we've got going on is this whole fire district, which hasn't happened yet, but it's definitely got a lot of momentum. And, you know, that will probably be a voted millage at some point, and I'm thinking, you weren't at the last meeting, Dave, but I was.
did you go?
Yeah, they'll probably, you know, they're looking at working backwards from probably a November, maybe even having it on the ballot this November, potentially. I'm working through the detailed budgets, and they're gonna put this plan together, and they're gonna start coming around to all the groups,
We're gonna do the tour.
all of the townships have committed to the $5,000, so it's definitely still having traction. No, that doesn't change what we're talking about here for a storage
No.
building, but it adds another dynamic, because now you've got full-time people potentially here, and, you know, we're becoming a more sophisticated township, and we have different needs, and I know there's a lot of unmet cemetery needs, but we had a staff person that was competent, a good handyman, they could be doing a lot of that
So
stuff.
if we had 2 full-time rescue guys or firemen, when they're not doing that, hell, we'll just put them to work in the park.
Give them rakes.
That's not gonna
I
work.
feel like that's not gonna. be
No, that's not
original
gonna
contract.
happen. I'm teasing.
So you bring up the fact that maybe there would be a millage for that fire district, but our fire millage is up this year. We have to be on the ballot either in August or November.
So if it passes, but do you need to
So
institute it
here-
if the other one passes?
Now, that part I'd have to.
We
sort it out. I
have
don't
to
know how
have
that
a
would
work
be.
session and sort through all.
Well, besides that, you'd still run them both. Here's why. It's gonna be over and above the other millage, so you have to pass your first one.
Right, even if we, yeah.
You're not asking for the you're asking for an
Right.
additional millage.
Right, so you'd go in August
August.
rather, if it didn't pass in August, currently, unless the legislature
Oh, yeah.
passes legislation which could change that. You could have another bite at the apple in November, but then you would have 2 competing fire millages on.
Well, no, because the other ones would be an additional millage.
What if
Over and
people-
above
What
that.
if people go, it's great, let's have a fire district, no on Onekama's fire department, because we wanna join the fire district,
Well,
that one fails.
we gotta sort that all out. There's
That'll
all
have to
those
be-
issues. I bring that up because it's just another dynamic. It really doesn't impact the budget.
I didn't think it was that close to being on the ballot.
Oh,
I thought that would be like a 27 ballot
No.
for the fire district.
well, it could be. You could put it in May and still levy it in December. You can't probably do it in August and still get it on the winter taxes very easily. Maybe, or November, you certainly couldn't do it. You could, if there was an August one.
We still need to do the dog and pony show.
Right,
So
and that's what that 20 grand is gonna help go for, so anyway, so we're gonna get Vic's detailed budget, and that's gonna,
Tuesday.
what's that?
Tuesday.
Yeah, and then I'll incorporate that in here. I've sent you all the sheets, I sent you all the notes. I just wanna make sure I'm not missing anything, or, you know, like I said, I haven't heard from the fire department, I need to bump Rob on that, you know, but the deadline hasn't come yet, so. And the reason this is important is on the budget calendar is I have the request due February 24th, which is a week from now. But then I have to put those all together and have it available for review by March 2nd, which is fine, it's not hard to do. But I need to know if there's things that you guys want changed, or I think we should look at the proposed wages again, just so we can get some consensus on that. And then I can tidy this up and make some tweaks and work with Jennifer, because she's,
I think we should put 50 grand at least aside and say building, a building.
That much?
Oh, yeah.
oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Just get a-
Want a couple Amish sheds,
Get
a couple
Amish-
Amish sheds out here?
Have any Amish
Should we get
workers?
half a Quonset hut?
We got one for sale and we're not going.
Guys are terrible.
Those are actually pretty functional buildings. Coal, but functional.
You can put steel.
Storage,
Yeah.
nobody's got
Cheaper,
wood
it's
there.
cheaper than, it's probably cheaper than a stick-built pole barn.
Yeah.
I would guess.
You think
A steel
50?
frame.
I mean, I don't know how big.
It depends how big,
I mean,
I mean, you don't wanna overbuild this either, but we need,
Well,
we'll have to figure that out. You need a
Well, you know
55.
what you got back there, you can measure what you got back there and add 3 times that, just for the
Yeah,
original.
and you know
Well,
what,
and that's-
and at 2 years from now, when we have a handyman with a truck and there's equipment and.
Yep.
You know darn well that you build a barn.
Well,
and
you always build it too small.
Right,
I'd say you got like 1,500 square feet.
No, God, no. 50 by 30? No, God, that's not big.
but maybe we should put together a subcommittee. to
That's not-
study
that's
this,
not even-
come up with a
No,
recommendation.
maybe
for
40
down the
by
road.
60 at a minimum.
Okay.
Guys are getting slap happy.
We'll get some township representative, we can get Farmer Dave.
Yeah.
Yeah, go on a tour of the buildings.
All right, so if you look at the calendar here, it's up on the
Yeah.
screen, so. I need to, that's why we scheduled this, so we can get input, because I'm not gonna be able to come back. After
And
the
do it that because
24th.
there'll be not enough.
Right, so we kind of need to decide tonight if there's other things that aren't in there that we wanna have in there. I know we need 30,000 for
Well,
collection equipment.
Yeah, at least
How much?
30. We should
Terrible.
budget 30.
Right,
And the state's reimbursing us for that.
At the moment, they are not. There are efforts afoot to see that it gets in the budget and gets through. I'm not holding my breath.
Right.
I'd rather plan for it and not need it.
they,
The scam.
the state has said 15 officially now, it's Heather sent me something, it has a little.
I sent you something before.
This was a different thing.
That was the thing they just sent you, but I sent you my direct communication
You
with the
did.
Bureau of Elections, where I have it right from them.
You did.
Thank you.
That's pretty
50,000.
shocking that they demand that. Mark.
Road budget. How much do we have in there?
So,
And where does budgeting for stuff here at the hall come under?
okay.
You're talking about
let's-
township
let's-
hall maintenance, it's under township hall.
Let's do one thing at a time. So road budget, Dave. And this is why I needed, and I have to get with you. I need to know how much the
Three,
chip seal stuff's gonna cost. I couldn't find the signed
Three.
contract thing. We have that
69,
somewhere, right?
We
three,
do.
something, 349?
Well,
Does that include, the Langland?
No,
Cause we got, Langland was.
we were gonna add Langley on, but he never got me a bid from the company, so I need to get a hold of the company next.
we paid Langland Park.
No, the chip sealing
Oh. right.
And stripe.
and stripe.
And I was
We didn't do
told,
that
hold
one.
off on the stripe because they were gonna chip seal last
Right.
fall, I just
But
want to
then
make
Brad
sure.
never, I'll call tomorrow and ask Jess. She
Well,
can dig
I
up the-
need that number, whatever it is, so I don't have that built in.
Okay,
I
so
think I
how
might
much
have
is
put
there in there
it
right
so
now?
Right now, we got about 830,000.
Okay. So three something, well, I'm gonna say it's 350.
I think I penciled something in, though, but I need to know what the real
And
number
yeah, they
is.
have the real figure. So at the meeting today, so I didn't give that report because Rhodes isn't on here anymore. Anyways, we took it off. Rhodes
Should stand.
should stay on. I attended Kissimmee, I told her I would go, so they reaffirmed, they were gonna actually redo a motion, they added it on as additional items from the board, and redo the motion to hire the guy and have a roll call vote. And when they said it, I went, well, I was at the meeting, there was three guys that made a motion and they voted. So then Jerry Peterson, when he said something, said, I don't know what you're talking about. You guys voted the guy in at the last meeting. Then they all went, oh, okay. So then Jerry said something about how he just said, I want to make sure you guys, and then he said, this process, how you did this and is wrong, and I'll tell you why. You should have had a set of questions that everybody answered.
Correct. Every
And then graded them on their answers and have a comparison. You didn't do that. And then he said, and then you hired a guy outside of the meeting. And then they said, and then I wasn't gonna say anything, and I said, well, I'm gonna say it. I said, look, I'm not saying that the guy you hired, I talked to the guy, said, he's a great guy. I'm not even saying you did anything wrong in the hiring process, but you hired the guy on the phone after the meeting and offered him the job, and then he turned it down. And then he called you back and said he'd take it, and then you posted it, and then you already hired him, and then you made a motion at a meeting to hire him legitimately. And then they said, well, then they read me the minutes from that special meeting that I have a copy of, except there's two more lines added that says, the job was offered to da-da-da-da-da. Yeah, and that was not on the other minutes. I did not get into that, but the paper's already called me now twice tonight, because they were there. I don't know how much I'm gonna say. I think it's just better. We have to work with these guys. I don't want any issues.
Well, it's their issue, you know. what I
It's
mean?
their issue. And I told them, you guys, that's just, I almost said in the cloak of darkness, but I didn't. I can't remember.
Well, it's a procedural thing that you can get on, like,
Open meeting act.
right, when you have a hiring committee, you have to have the same questions, I mean.
Right?
I've been through it a million times, yeah, and everybody, you know, let's say there's 5 people, everybody has a sheet of paper, usually you circle the questions you ask, because each person asks the same question. You know, you might have 10 questions, I'm the number 2 guy, you might be number 3 guy, so, and you rotate around. And so that way it's an equal playing field for each one of the candidates.
So they didn't do that. And I only said that, and 2 I think board members got ticked at me, but that's okay. Okay, Ed, I'm sorry, I digress, but that's the road report, so that they're gonna do, they're short on money. The state supposedly now, I don't know how, but Peterson says, you guys are short on money. They had $6 million come in, how many years ago? 4 a year, or 5.5 million. They're not making a building payment of $350,000 now, that's gone away, they're done, building's paid for. They only have $3 million.
I don't know, my road funds in the city are going up by 30% this year, so I don't know what they're talking about.
Something that's goofy, and I didn't want to get into it till the new guy's there, because I don't know if they could answer, you know what I mean, the manager wasn't there, and it doesn't make
So
sense.
they're committed to our project, because
We paid up.
No, we didn't, we got
we
credit.
have a signed contract.
Yeah, they said they're doing it.
Including, like,
Yeah, then I'll
It'll be
have
a
to
change
add,
order.
that'll be a change order.
just wanna make sure it gets in there.
Actually, we'll probably end up paying the contractor ourselves, because they don't pay anything of that.
We can do that then.
That's not a cost share deal.
So Jennifer, you said you wanted to know where city hall stuff is budgeted, that's at
Mhm.
265, I've got it right
Thought that
there. Is there
was-
something we need to add to that, that you're aware of?
Hopefully they won't get sued.
I don't, Jared can't.
So we
sue.
got.
They came back, I mean, you could sue them for violating the Opens Meeting Act, what are you
So we
gonna
got
do?
Yeah,
Custodian
you said any of
wages,
the candidates,
social
I don't know how many
security, we
candidates, they
got
have. Let's say there's 3 or 4 candidates.
2,500 in supplies,
One of the candidates could,
we got
made it good, because.
29,000 in contractual
There's no
services,
service,
which is our
they
phone system,
Okay.
They did
Trash
an
hall
interview,
help,
but then there was a new.
Zoom
candidate.
licenses, plus storage,
So I wouldn't have to-
Summit,
have to-
Civic Plus
I
website,
mean,
fire
They
protection,
reposted it,
laser printer, Pitney
and then
Bowes,
they never interviewed.
postage,
They just say we're the.
action, WDI, pest
Marble
control.
fertilizer.
It's
That's,
Jennifer.
Is that 500?
It is someone.
Well,
yeah, now look at that one.
I would say they need to review their policy hiring before they do it anymore.
No, I was thinking about things like, okay, so we do have carpet cleaning,
At least
thinking about things like,
all be on the
do you
same
think the town hall could stand to be repainted? We wanted to repaint these 2 sides of the building, need to be freshened up. On that, the steps that go out the back
I've got
side.
$5,000 here for building, if that needs to be higher, we can adjust that.
For sure needs to be higher.
You heard Jennifer's
That's for you,
proposal.
from Joe.
Do we have $5,000
I already
built
got
in for well, we have building steel,
I already have one. You get to keep that one.
Building, steel, and repaint.
there's nothing, that's zero right now. So under building, we have 5,000, so. if we
That's
have-
fine.
But no, she thinks it's gonna be.
I think it's too low.
To paint the inside, not the outside.
It is too low to paint the
I
outside.
was reading that document.
It is too low to
Okay.
paint the outside. We're replacing this door, which is in nobody's budget. 'Cause we just decided it had to be done this year.
Well, that's in a repair and maintenance.
How much of the building has to be painted now is just this and
This side and that side, and then it's an extra charge to paint the faint brick, because that brick is not, it's some sort of weird foamy thing.
Yeah, it's
That
fake.
requires a different application. It's gonna be like another, I don't know, $3,000 or $4,000.
to paint that? No.
I tried to get Bob to do it, and he said, nope,
We
you
must
wouldn't
just put
touch
a
it.
new off, if you're gonna pay it for $3,000, I bet it wouldn't cost that much to
Give
replace
me a
it.
placeholder for repainting the building, and I'll add it in. $6,000, $7,000?
Put $10,000.
Cause do you think it's time to repaint the walls?
Here,
Those probably.
You think?
that one's scuffed up a little, I don't know. We knew what color it was, it just painted the same color. That's Bob, he's the interior, oh no, that'd be a Shelley deal. I think,
Mr. Blackmore is insistent that he coming very close to the end of his term of engagement as an employee.
Is he?
He's insistent.
You leave it
Thanks, Ben.
tomorrow? Maybe we'll play-
Yes, I gotta go downstate tomorrow.
Oh, we're gonna maybe play pickleball, so never mind.
Yeah,
Next week.
we're in a 5-stand tournament Friday morning, so
A what?
5-stand. Shooting place.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't, the terminology I don't know. Thank you.
Tuesday, I'll have it to you.
Excellent.
Okay, thank you guys.
Appreciate your efforts, babe.
Okay, take care.
Bye.
Oh, and we discussed, either quite a few months ago, we mentioned something about replacing laptops. Is that in there?
We're good, because they're all Windows 11 now, so I think we can go a cycle, unless you need one, we can dump on. If it is.
No, it don't work.
You
gotta get it raised. He said, "Joe's got it."
No, it's fine.
Should have called.
I just looked at
There was
new
one,
ones.
there was.
And
Cindy,
Cindy's not working, but yours is fixed.
looking at new ones didn't take very.
Cindy, your laptop's fixed now, it's not giving any issues, right?
I still got.
Why is that?
No, it's fine.
They got like $6,000 off. Yeah, what's 57 grand? A truck.
For what?
He's looking at a new truck. He says 57. That's cheap.
Not terrible. Well, I'm gonna keep the one I got.
Just get a Maverick, they're under 20 grand.
I'm practically a farmer. I'm just gonna keep the one I got. It's fine.
I do have a farm plan.
You ridden in one of them?
No, they're.
You ever ridden in a love truck back in the day?
Oh, yeah, I remember those.
Yeah, that's what that, man, I bought
Matt, when Willie gets a Sierra on the road, he'll sell you his Dakota.
one.
Right, it sings to you when it goes down the road.
I know when he's coming from like 4 miles away.
Can hear it?
It's got some weird, every time he hits the gas, it goes, reach here.
You hear him?
I hear him from, I don't know.
What else? What else?
Building, you got, maintenance on this. What about money we're gonna spend on the recycling center itself, which is gonna be about 20 grand.
So I think. I
Open
have,
fencing.
Fence and gravel.
Boy, is it convenient right there though, isn't it?
Here's the killer. You wanna hear so the guy who bought the house come in to see me the other day.
Yeah.
He's a vet from Vietnam.
Oh, well.
And he come in to file his thing for a veteran's exemption. Anyways, he tells me where he lives, and I said, "Oh, hey," I said, "I'm sorry." I said, "Do you have any issues with the?" No, why? He said, "Oh, yeah, once in a while, and then there's a lot of people there. It's so noisy." Yeah, so what? He went,
The new owner of the house.
the new
Yeah.
owner of the house.
It's gone.
Oh, they sold the house?
Yeah.
Oh, she did. Oh, yeah. She sent me another nastyogram.
Oh, I figured you had another bill.
We haven't paid.
Oh.
So Dave, I've got 30 grand in for the recycling property, fence, gravel, whatever. it is.
Okay.
So, this might be a dumb, so I know we keep talking about Mr. DeVoe and putting a fence up and all of that. And I know it would, if we had to do that, it would end up being on his tax
Tax
roll
roll.
for paying us back, but we would still need the money to put those fences up.
Yeah, 2 grand.
Oh, I thought it was a higher number.
No, we're gonna have my.
One of the quotes was excessively.
Oh, it was more than 2 grand. I'm sorry. What did he finally turn his bill in?
Is it the guy that's gonna do the recycling fence?
Yeah,
I just didn't know if we had to have that in the budget.
I'll add it right here.
5 grand.
Or should I put that under planning and zoning for compliance?
That's
Ooh, there
okay.
you
It's
go.
township board.
No, not township board. That should be compliance for.
Is it
Oh,
ordinance?
I guess it is township board. I don't know.
I'll add it, I'm not gonna do it, but I'll add in what, 5 grand for a fence or 3 grand?
Mhm.
5.
Make it nice and tall.
And we're gonna get reimbursed, so.
Well, then just go on the
Well,
taxes.
that year probably, right?
No, we levy it in the winter time, which will be,
Oh.
Do they have, what, 3 years to pay it?
no.
No, it goes on the taxes you bill him. If he doesn't do it, you just put it on the tax, you place a lien.
And then if he still doesn't pay, then what?
That's what happened to Mr. Shimke down there. In the Quonset hut. The village went
There's no
after.
chance that property would come back to the township.
Why?
I'm
Where?
asking,
Whose?
Mr. Shimke's Quonset,
Come back to where?
The village maybe?
township, could he donate it to the township?
Sure, if he
Be a nice
pays the.
storage shed
if-
area.
if-
Close, convenient.
If he pays the $20,000, if he pays the $20,000 in back
So does
taxes.
Jen.
Or that'd be a great spot for a storage building.
but nobody can find anything else about it.
What do you wanna know?
Good point.
About what?
I think the school may have an arrangement with Mr. Shimke.
They have right of first refusal, that's why they're listed on all the bills.
Oh, it's just a right of first
They
refusal.
recorded that?
I guess,
Apparently they would have
they
to.
recorded it and then they had a right of first refusal. He owes, and there's, I could tell, 15 or 18,000 on taxes. And it isn't taxes so much, it's the lien the village placed on him for hauling his boat and trailer away. And filing fees in court and attorney's fees and something else, so the bill that was probably $2,500 turned into 75 plus 3 years of interest, plus his back taxes.
Okay, and this is kind of dragging on. You guys have all the stuff. If
Yeah.
you've got something that's in there that's weird, let me know. We still, I mean, I'll put it in, we still have to talk about it at a public meeting, but I need to be able to publish something.
Okay,
So I've got up on the screen, and I think I sent these to you before this is me only, just throwing out.
I think you had 3% for
Put in
most
some money
wages.
for a bigger.
Well,
we could do that, you could double the size of that, it would help, right? No, you don't think so? They're not much money.
anyway, I penciled in like around 3%. I was kind of trying to make it even numbers. We don't have to, we can just make it 3%.
Movie night.
Some are a little more, some are a little less, for like these stipends. I don't
What did we
I'd
do
like
for,
to give our deputies a little more, both the
what do they
clerk
make an
and the
hour?
treasurer.
right now they make 21 an hour.
You give them a 4% raise,
No, that was in 26.
or did they get a raise?
They did.
They did.
Up to the board.
I'd like to do at least $1 for each of them.
What did they make last year?
Right now they're making $21 an hour.
Right now, without a raise?
They got a
They
raise
got a
from
percent raise.
24
up
to
$21,000.
26.
Last year, well, they should raise them.
So I had penciled in a 3% just for discussion.
We should do 4, to me. Oh, I see what you're doing, because the rate of inflation was supposedly just under 3.
Correct. It was foreman.
Oh, it wasn't because.
Not much.
The formula.
4%,
That I would
because I'm
like
close
to
to
go. Perfect, that's what I would like, 22.
Okay.
The deputy treasurer has to put up with a lot.
No, everyone's so nice to her.
Sometimes we hear things about her boss. Sometimes people are not nice. She
Um,
uses words that are not used in mixed company. We never hear that from her.
The other thing we need to look at is the schedule of fees. The only issue I have with the schedule of fees is I think we charge too much for signs. It's really expensive to get a sign permit, I think.
How much is that?
Like, pull it up. I didn't.
Like commercial business sign or?
Well, I think the permit fee for houses is too much, but
Well, why don't I do
Did
this?
you send the fees?
I don't think I did.
Because I don't
did
think I
update
saw
it.
that.
No, it's the same as last year, so let me pull it up here.
I
I
didn't.
know why we did it. We did the fee schedule and we raised the fees, so it wasn't costing us money out of pocket to have the zoning administrator who was administrating all the land use permits. And I think that's why, but some of that stuff is really out of hand, like a building is $500.
So here's the schedule of fees right now.
See, residents 1,600 of living space within 10, I don't think that's okay, because those are a pain in the butt, they're bigger.
Well, why should an accessory building be the same amount as a residence? I think that's ridiculous.
I think it's ridiculous too, I don't think it should be, I think that should be half that.
And
the
but-
signs,
Well, then if you come down to.
Oh,
what?
go back up where it says cemetery, the section that we will have to change that.
Okay, so I'm gonna send this around, and I just need feedback on this, and we can talk about it more, but I thought there was a sign permit here, David.
It's gotta be up on the top end. Well, residents, Floodplain, solar, wind energy.
It's
permit.
tagged on, right here, simple permits.
Oh, yeah, less than, it's $35.
Right, that's less than 50 square feet. Accessory building signs larger than 50 square feet are $250, really?
Okay,
That's-
so what I would do is eliminate the 50 square foot of, that's uncovered.
I would just,
Take the sign thing right out of there and make the signs $35.
or make it $50.
Okay, that's fine.
For any sign.
But accessory buildings should be a little bit higher, the 250 part. Just take the sign thing out of that and cover it under the first line.
Right.
All signs, I don't care how big they are, should be whatever price.
And that's what I'm at.
Yeah, like $50.
$50, no, not.
I think 50, if I just think 250 for a big sign is,
But that also covers accessory buildings, so watch.
we'd have to separate it out.
Right, separate it out, that's what I'm saying.
But I'll send
I
this,
agree.
I'll send this around. I mean,
So like for a business,
Are people putting signs on stuff?
no, because they gotta pay $250 to get a permit.
It's crazy, some of this stuff. The house thing, I guess,
Do we have to charge people to put up a sign?
No, we don't have to charge them anything. They have to get it reviewed and they have to get a permit.
I need a permit because that way I make sure they put it what they're supposed to follow.
I don't think it's unreasonable to charge for that. I just don't think $250 because the sign is bigger.
And we have limits on signs of square footage, but it's not here.
You know, we've had issues where this after the fact permit, I think, is double, right?
Correct.
I may
I don't,
move this.
I don't,
don't care
I
if
don't
that
have a
round-
hard time charging people double for nothing.
You know what I mean, right? When I
Right,
talk
right,
about-
right, right,
There
right.
could be some sort of penalty for,
So an
It is
after
double.
the fact permit is twice the original fee.
That makes sense. Well, that way, if you're in the rears,
I don't know if the subdivision section needs to get revised because of the law change. So if everybody could just take a look at this and we can amend it, but I need to get that back. Well, I don't have to publish it necessarily. We can do that later, but,
I think we're reducing costs, everyone will be happy. Is that rarely
I
happening?
mean, are we gonna stick with $9,000 for Brown Township? That feels low to me.
well, here's what, it depends. So if in fact this district thing goes through, we have those people in Bear Lake that could cover. Our fire district runs into Bear Lake, okay? So the millage vote, essentially,
I'm,
working on that. I don't know how we do that.
so. I believe Rob said essentially. You're not getting compensated for the portion of Bear Lake that that our fire department is covering. Their millage is staying with their fire department.
So we shouldn't be. I don't think that's a legal expenditure of public funds unless everything is operating under the automatic mutual aid. And then you don't have to agree to free automatic mutual aid if it's all one-sided.
Right, and that's,
So if
but
in
that's a
fact-
Rob question.
Well, no, right now, I agree. That's, we cover that and they cover part of, you know, I mean, the fire districts are different. If you have a voted millage to provide that different service, I don't know how we do that over there, because we cover. We
Well-
added it up.
Oh, you're saying if there's the district because they're not planning on.
We have to
having
form a
district.
new district, and then I think we can charge them,
I think if
I think.
if the way it stands right now, 9,000 probably isn't covering their costs.
No, you're talking about Brown.
Brown.
Okay, okay.
If we go to a fire district, it certainly isn't gonna cover
No.
costs. And the question is the 5-member board of the fire district gonna wanna provide service to Brown Township if they're not paying the same per capita or whatever, the same formula?
They would need to though, if they want.
Well, maybe, and Brown isn't gonna be able to afford that. So because that's an issue that's gotta get sorted. And then if we're not charging Bear Lake anything, that needs to change.
And we talked about that at the meeting already and said we can't do that because for one thing, if they realize we're doing that for free, they just won't show up for some stuff, which they don't now.
Mhm.
Bear Lake,
Do we have a mutual aid agreement with Bear Lake Township?
Yes,
Okay, so much like the city, we have automatic mutual aid agreements.
automatic mutual aid.
And, we're the first responder for Manistee and Fowler
You
Township.
cover most of the, I get it, and I don't know how they can do that.
So that is part of what has prompted this fire district discussion. If the fire district was like a hard no from everybody, then those mutual aid agreements would probably become something like, okay, it's going to be a paid mutual aid.
Mhm.
Oh,
Because
Yeah, if we
we're
go,
not, we're done subsidizing the townships.
right.
So that was where that was headed. So I don't see why, if not this budget, if you go to a fire district or down the road, it's gonna have to get addressed because if we're only responding to stuff in Bear Lake Township and they're like, oh, this is great, I can sit back and Onekama's gonna cover me, no,
No,
not doing
because we cover 8 or 10 square miles of Bear Lake right
it. They
now.
should be paying us just like Brown.
That would be a reason people would vote
Why,
against.
why is Brown paying us and Bear Lake not? Does Brown have any fire department, so they can't respond?
No, they have no fire
Okay, so
department.
that's probably part of the difference. They have one in theory, they're responding, but they don't.
But essentially for years, but I do not know, I don't know this. Do those people, do we ever get a check from do those people that are in Bear Lake Township pay our millage?
No.
I've never asked that question.
No.
No.
Mm-mm.
Then why in the hell are we covering them?
Well, because it's an automatic mutual aid agreement.
No, mutual aid, but I mean, but we cover them as first call. We're not mutual aided. We're called
Okay.
out immediately. It's our
Is
district.
there an agreement that I'm not aware of?
There must be.
Well, we should look that up. But anyway, I'm just bringing that up as I think that's an issue that we need to
Yeah.
address.
Well, I would see that as something people would look at it and say, well, why am I voting
To cover them.
to increase my taxes and a millage to subsidize somebody that's not paying anything? That would be an item of contention that potentially could bomb the whole thing. So
Absolutely.
that needs to be proved out. Yeah, I mean, that's just
I
me.
guess we'll bring that up because we've talked about it, but never, no one has ever said how we could bill them for that. So I guess,
You know, it gets a little bit technical because you've got the whole med control thing and then I think, but clearly, if we're only making runs into Bear Lake and they're really not responding to any of our calls or very slow or that's not workable.
well, not if we have this full-time thing and you leave here and you're over there in 4 minutes.
Right.
Well,
With an
and-
ambulance here at the building. Yeah.
Right?
So the one thing with the fire district is the fact is all in place and we have an ambulance here is we get a bill for that sort of thing too. So there'll be revenue coming in for that, which will help to offset costs as well.
Right.
But. All right, what else do people need to be able to give me some feedback? More, I'll send this out. Are we okay with the rest of the wage stuff? We wanna do no increase because it's tough times and
Well,
inflation.
not tough times.
So I'll go with that. We'll go with these things I have here. I can recirculate the stuff and I just need feedback. And then I need to get it published March 2nd. And then the budget calendar, if you look at it, we've got, so there's a draft budget available to review. I've got to publish an ad in the newspaper. And then March 18th is when we have a regular meeting and a public hearing. And then we have a special meeting on the 25th to adopt it. So we've got steps in the process that we have to follow.
Cool. Anybody else?
You're gonna get me some stuff that you need.
Sure.
Okay.
Public comment, is anyone online?
Nope.
Okay. No public comment being heard, I'm gonna adjourn.
Beauty.